Will he knock when he's ready, or you? I don't want you to rush him at all. I was just curious. Should we like give him a couple minutes, then you check again?
Give him 2 more minutes.
Great. No rush. Can you confirm they're good to go? That's what Ms. Nelson said, but
Okay.
it's 13.
Oh, no.
Any objection?
All objections.
They're good? Okay.
Can you please state your name for the record, ma'am?
Not.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think you need to. It's up to you. I don't have a concern. If you do, go for it. No. Is it going to be a big production getting her out here? Should we just get her out here now?
She's first.
Is Ms. Riley the next witness? It would be easier for you if she's already out here. Okay.
Well, at least before.
Yeah. And that's fine. I don't have anything I need to cover with you all. I'm happy to talk a little. I've watched the Guns Up video again, but I want Mr. Hiles here for that discussion. And as I'm going to be played through this witness anyway, so we will address that. Is there anything? We don't have Mr. Pritchett here, so we're not on the record yet because Mr. Pritchett's not here. I just want to know if there are things we need to get on the record that need to happen with Ms. Riley not in here, because that's another process and we could start getting her to the witness stand. Anything from the state we need to get on the record that shouldn't happen with Ms. Riley in the room? All right, Ms. Mignot?
Possibly as it pertains to logistics.
Okay.
Detective Maldonado.
Okay. Why don't you tell me now, and then we'll get it on the record when Mr. Pritchett is in here.
Okay, so I'm trying to coordinate him taking a look at the video so he can go ahead and initiate the jump drive that we have prepared for him, but he has not contacted us back, although we subpoenaed him, and I had emailed Mr. Hiles last night.
Yeah.
I know he's got some things.
He's doing some other things this morning.
And so I forwarded the email to Ms. Green, and then I spoke with Ms. Green this morning, and Ms. Green has assured me that he will be available sometime throughout the day. So for logistical purposes, I wanted to get an idea from the court. If you can tell what time frame we would have that break, so I can have an opportunity to speak with him so that I could coordinate with them to make sure that he's somewhere where I can actually.
Sure. Do you plan on calling Detective Maldonado before lunch?
No.
He needs to be here at lunch, and that's your break. So that's my direction, is that he needs to be here at lunch. So let's say noon. We may have lunch later than that. I don't have a hard and fast time when we need to do it, but he should be here by noon. He can be doing other stuff, but when it's the lunch break, then you can go into the backup jury room, or he can be right in here. You're certainly entitled to that, and the state committed to making that happen.
Today, okay.
Yes.
I don't believe he's being called today, but
I see. What I thought Mr. Hile said was that today would be Riley, Maldonado, not in that order, but Riley, Maldonado, and Kalish. That was today.
then I'll make that happen, Judge.
Well, don't if he's not testifying today.
Let me just make it happen, so.
That's easier. If he can be here at lunchtime, then we check that box. And if he doesn't get called today, Ms. Munoz had that opportunity, and he gets to come to the courthouse twice.
I would do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
I can make it easier. Your jump drive, it's got the interviews that he actually conducted, correct?
Yes.
So state will stipulate that whatever's on your jump drive is been authenticated. And if, we would, I guess the objection would be whether it was being properly introduced, but it won't be an objection as to authentication as to, what it purports to be, because Maldonado did the interviews.
Done.
Okay.
So it's in?
Stipulate.
Well, it's in, and we'll certainly make it part of the record. Whether you can play segments or not, what I heard Mr. Abate saying is what you and I were talking about yesterday, which is it ought to come in. And I thought Mr. Hiles would do what Mr. Abate just did. He's like, sure, it can come in. We all know what it is. So we don't object. No foundation required. It's in. Whether you can play certain segments, it's very contextual. If Ms. Riley says there were 4 people in the car, and in her interview she says there were 4 people in the car, you're not impeaching her by playing, and you know that.
I
But
understand.
that's what Mr. Abate is.
I understand that, Judge.
Okay.
Impeachment is they have to say something inconsistent with what you know.
I know you understand it. It's just that the objection I'm hearing isn't to the entering into the record of either Riley or Kalish's interview. It would be contextually, as you say, saying, I want to play this part now, and they look at it and they may say, that part's not impeachment. That would be hearsay because it doesn't relate to anything she testified to. And we can have a discussion about it, but you don't need to worry about connecting with Maldonado because those interviews at a minimum will be made part of the record as whatever exhibits you want them to be if the state doesn't tender them. And then you'll use them in whatever way is legally permissible.
Awesome. That's was my concern here.
Okay, great. We'll get that on the record in just a second.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, let's get on the record now, please. It is Thursday morning, little after 9:20, and this is State versus Pritchett and Robinson, 20 SC 176922. We have 2 prosecutors here. They're ready to go. We have Mr. Robinson and his team, and then Mr. Pritchett, who I will refer to as the accused in front of the jurors, also present. Mr. Abate, my understanding is you'll be handling the direct examination of the next witness. Any reason we should not get her in court before the jurors? And that'll be Ms. Riley. Okay. Why don't we get Ms. Riley in here, please? While you all are doing that, Ms. Mignot, we had a discussion off the record, although in the presence of your client, as well as Mr. Pritchett and the state, about how we're handling the lead detective's interviews with Ms. Riley and Ms. Kalish. And my understanding, I think it's yours as well, is that those can be made part of the record without you laying any foundation. As long as you show to the state, here's the thumb drive, and you have whatever, you don't need to do it right now, but whatever exhibits they are, you had mentioned a 5A, 5B, your exhibit numbers, but you, at the appropriate time that you want to make those part of the record, you may do that and you will not face an objection from the state about authenticity or foundation. Which means you don't need to meet with Maldonado in advance to have him preview it to say, oh yeah, that's my recording. You got it from the state, and Mr. Abate, off the record, said, we know what it is. So it can go on the record. Whether any of it gets played for the jury is contextual, as you know well, and you'll navigate that during the course of your cross-examination of Ms. Riley and Ms. Kalish.
Yes.
Is that what you feel, that a fair summary of what we discussed off the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything you want to add on that topic?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else you want to get on the record before we bring the jurors in?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Pritchett, good morning, sir. Anything you want to get on the record before we bring the jury in?
My only
objections are just, again, I don't, I mean, well, let me just ask a short question to the court. In belief that I have obtained, seen all the discoveries.
No, I'm not of that belief, but I do need to correct. I don't know that I'm correcting something I said. I should make clear to you in case it wasn't clear. You are free to bring any lawyer you want in the court to assist you as backup, if you can do that. And if you can get an attorney to come in here and say, you know what, I won't be backup, I'll be the lawyer. There's nothing prohibiting you from shifting gears as long as it doesn't require a continuance. So I didn't want you to have the misimpression that if your family had identified someone or you had identified someone and that person had said, I'm ready to come in, that I was preventing that from happening. That is not the case. Let me finish and then you're going to make your record. What I've done at your request was to release Ms. Williams, who had been appointed, according to you on multiple occasions, over your objection and forced on you. And then when we finally had a dialogue about something other than jurisdiction, you made clear on the record that you were knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily invoking your right to represent yourself. You have since told me on a couple of occasions it's not going so well in your mind, and maybe you could have standby counsel. And the answer is, of course you can, if that's someone you or your family line up. We'll get another chair, that person can assist you. You may decide you want that person to be lead counsel for Team Pritchett. That also is okay. But what isn't okay is if that lawyer says, hey, you know what, I need 2 days to get up to speed. That lawyer just would plop down next to you and the two of you would be off and running. What did you want to get on the record?
I appreciate that clarification. It wasn't in my mind clear that you were not allowing me to stand by or any type of counsel, but like I said, I do appreciate the clarification. The only reason why I would have asked for 10 years, regardless, which I kind of have been implying, is because, again, I just never at this point received full discovery. The court was clear that on the second day, I believe, of this trial occurred, that that was the first time I received even the full witness list. So there was no type of preparation that was able to happen, beforehand. 20 of the witnesses that are on that list. And so again, that's my objection, the fact that I was lack of preparation because of full disclosure.
Got it. Okay. And you're making a record of that. I appreciate you doing that. The record should also be clear. It is already clear, but I'm going to state it now for the transcript of this trial, that of course your various lawyers you've had and then gotten rid of received all this discovery, had witness lists, etc. You've shared with me that maybe not all of it was shared with you, and you're free to persist in that representation. But what is inaccurate is to say that the Pritchett legal team never received discovery, never received a witness list. When you hit the eject button to Ms. Williams, you were ejecting not only the lawyer, but the information that she had begun to assimilate and absorb by looking at the discovery and the witness list, et cetera. So I'm not disagreeing with you that there are pieces of discovery that you've not held in your hand or been able to review because you're in custody and because on the eve of trial, you dismissed your lawyer. But it sounds like you do understand that I am not and have not intended to at any point prohibited you, and I'm not prohibiting you from bringing someone in if that's what you and your family arrange. In terms of me appointing someone, that time is over. You've had several lawyers appointed for you, and you made it clear on the record that that wasn't what you wanted. But you understand now that if there's someone who agrees to come sit with you as standby or as lead counsel, we'll get a second chair at that table. All right, let's bring the jurors in, please. Good morning, Ms. Riley.
Is there anyone I need that right now?
Does anyone have an extra copy of was there a transcript made of the interview, or it's digital?
It's digital.
Okay.
It's only digital for us to.
Okay.
What?
This is.
That's interesting.
Is you ready for the juror?
Yes, please.
Oh, I missed a lot of them.
All right, so juror. Judge, President accounted for.
Thank you, Deputy Gordon. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You look fresh for a Thursday. Thank you for being here on time. Lawyers and I and the accused had to work through a few things. And we already have on the stand the next witness. I'll ask Mr. Abate, who is another prosecutor. You have not met Mr. Abate yet. He is part of Team District Attorney. And he is here this morning to handle this witness for the state. I'll ask him to call the next witness so she's formally introduced to you, and then she'll be sworn in and we will be on our way. Mr. Abate, if you'd call the state's next witness.
Mr. Roboto.
Lauren Riley.
Can you raise your right hand?
Como ama gato,
You
Mr.
swear affirm that testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, that's what you tell God. You know your hand. State and spell your name for the record.
Laurenrielly.
It's a Sticks reference for you kids.
Good morning, Ms. Riley.
Good morning.
Kind of have a soft voice, so feel kind of lean forward if you can, and make sure you just talk into the mic. I can move it up and down.
Yeah, the microphone moves. I know it's harder for you to reach it, but move it so it's in a good spot for you.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. Thank you.
Can you, Ms. Riley, tell the jurors how old you are?
I'm 24 years old.
Okay, and where did you grow up up until now?
I grew up in Alpharetta, Georgia.
And did you go to high school in Alpharetta?
Yes, I did.
And where did you go to high school?
I went to Milton High School.
And in high school, did you play any sports, or were you involved in any after-school activities?
Yes, I played lacrosse.
Okay, and after high school, did you continue to play lacrosse in college?
Yes, sir, I did.
And can you tell the jurors where did you play lacrosse at the college or collegiate level?
I played lacrosse at Life University in Marietta.
Okay, and if you can, I know it's been some time, can you tell the jurors when did you graduate from high school, and then about what time did you start at Life University?
I graduated high school in 2018, and I started at Life in 2018 as well, in the fall.
Now, can you tell the jurors what position you had, a specific one, were you assigned or did you play for the lacrosse team with Life University?
I played midfield and attack.
And you said you started, your freshman year was the fall of 2018. Were you a starter your freshman year?
Yes.
Okay. And while at Life University, did some of your teammates become close friends?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors who is Lindsay Couch?
She was my teammate and friend.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how did you meet her?
I met her through travel lacrosse when I was younger. Yeah.
And when you say younger, were you in elementary school, middle school, high school?
Grade school. I think it was about 5th or 6th grade.
You guys have been playing lacrosse for a while.
Yes.
And did you go to high school with her too?
I did not.
Did you, I guess, you met in grade school and playing travel lacrosse. Did you, I guess, at that time have a close friendship, or were you more acquaintances?
We were acquaintances.
Okay. And did she continue to play lacrosse at the collegiate level too?
Yes.
And where did she play?
She played at Life as well, the same college I played at.
Okay. And were you guys at Life University at the same time?
Yes.
And were you roommates?
No, we were not.
And, when you went to college at Life, you said that was in Marietta,
Yes,
the fall of 2018.
yes.
Did you primarily, or did you only hang out in Marietta as you went off to college, or did you go to other places? Did you come to downtown Atlanta?
Yes, we went to other places, including downtown Atlanta.
And did you come to downtown and Buckhead and all the surrounding areas fairly often?
Yes,
And did you have a car in college?
yes, I did.
Can you tell the jurors what kind of car do you have at that time?
I had a Mercedes C250.
You remember what color it was?
It was gray.
Now, did you and Lindsay, when you got to college, have common friends outside of your Life University? I'll describe it as a little your college bubble.
Yes, we did.
And how did you meet other people outside of your high school friends, as well as your college friends?
Instagram, get-togethers, small gatherings.
Now,
Now that's
some of the
shot.
small gatherings that
I love
you and Lindsay went to, can you describe to the jurors, did they have drugs?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jurors what kind of drugs did you commonly come across at these small get-togethers?
Yes, marijuana, different forms of THC, cocaine, liquor of the sort.
And
When you say different forms of THC, meaning like edibles, or what did you mean by that?
Yes, so there different forms of THC edibles. They have wax. They have these cartridges you can smoke out of. So different kind of ways that THC is ingested.
now, did you guys go to these get-togethers or small gatherings often?
Yes.
Okay. And as you and Lindsay were going to college at Life, can you tell the jurors, did you meet someone with the nickname Young Vans?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, Young Vans, I guess, who is that a nickname for?
His name,
Yes.
Boss Coleman.
Okay. And how did you meet Boss Coleman?
I met him through Instagram.
Okay. And did you meet him, I guess, through messaging, through, I guess, DMs or other things?
Yes, DMs, direct message.
And do you remember about what or when you guys started messaging and met up?
Well, I met him the year prior. I was at a gathering at his place. I think that was around 2018. We were probably DMing around the same time.
Okay. And just so we can put some context to when you guys met, were you towards the last year of your senior year in high school, or had you already gone into college at Life?
I was in between the stages of college and high school and college.
I would say it was the summer of 2018.
Yes.
Now, I want to bring your attention to around November of 2019, okay?
Okay.
And were you still talking to and in contact and hanging out with Young Vans or Boss Coleman?
Yes.
Okay. And did you meet any of Young Vans, Mr. Coleman's, I guess, friends or people he hung out with?
Yes.
Okay. Did you meet someone by the name of Max Pritchett?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, did you call him Max Pritchett?
No.
And did he have a nickname?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors what was that nickname?
Rick Rare.
Oh, good Lord. He's got a rapper name.
Did you also meet other people who were
You know what
close,
you call the accused?
with Young Vans, and when you hung out with him, they were often there as well?
Yes.
Who else?
Tyrone Robinson, I knew him as Baby Slat.
Everyone's a rapper. I
And,
mean,
can you
everyone.
Tell the jurors, as you got to know them, did you learn through observing and hanging out with them that they were part of the YSL criminal street gang?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors a little bit about how you came to realize that?
Well, a lot of their Instagram posts, as well as some gang signs that have been used. They wear the colors of the YSL gang. So it's some different things that kind of point out that they would be affiliated with that gang.
But mostly the stupid.
Okay. Let's see if we can fix that. We can keep going. I'll add it. Audio is working fine. I'll see if I can re-add that screen.
Now, can you tell the jurors, once you kind of learned or figured out that they were a part of this street gang, why did you continue to hang out with them?
I thought it was fun. I had a good time, I guess.
Colonies.
And,
We.
Would you, as you continue to hang out with both, all of, whether it be young bands, Tyrone Robinson, who you knew as Baby Slap, or Rick Rare, Mr. Pritchett, did you begin to consider yourself an associate of YSL, the gang?
They all do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we've talked a little bit about a few people. Do you see the person that you have referred to as Rick Rare here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And if you can, if you will kind of point the direction of and identify Rick Rare by an article of clothing he's wearing for the record.
If you need to stand up, you're free to do that.
He's wearing a blue button down with a black blazer, if I'm correct.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Max Pritchett. Now, you also talked a little bit about the person you knew as Baby Slap, Tyrone Robinson. Do you see him in the courtroom here today?
Yes.
Okay. And if you will kind of point in the direction or identify who they're sitting around, and then an article of clothing that he's wearing.
He's sitting over there. He's wearing a gray blazer.
And is he sitting next to anyone?
Yes.
Okay. And
Can you describe the color of clothing of one of the people next to him?
Yes. The lady with the red shirt.
Your Honor, statement, have the record reflect that the witness, Miss Riley, has identified the defendant, Tyrone Robinson. Now, if I should have talked about this at the beginning, so I apologize. Are you living in Alpharetta or in Marietta right now?
No, sir.
And where are you laying your head or staying?
I live in Buckhead.
Okay. Are you currently staying in Buckhead?
No.
Where are you sleeping at night?
Atlanta City Detention Center.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors why are you at the City Detention Center?
My bond was revoked.
Okay. And why was your bond revoked?
Because I did not follow my 24-hour house arrest curfew.
And were you on bond for charges related to the case that we're here for today?
Yes.
And was another reason, part of the reason your bond was revoked, is because while you were out on bond, you were arrested an additional or second time?
Yes.
Okay. And while you were out on bond, were you continuing to hang out with other members of the YSL street gang.
Stop it.
Yes.
Can you tell the
Looks like
jurors
Mike does not approve of this
who
comment.
were the members of YSL that you were hanging out with at that time?
Robert Holiday and Reginald Pierce.
All right, so let's go to November 7th of 2019, okay? Were you, do you recall, were you hanging out with Miss Lindsay that day?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember, I guess, where you guys were when you initially began, I guess, to hang out?
We were at our college dorm.
Okay, so Marietta?
Yes.
All right, and that day, had you been in contact with young men?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you typically, I guess, contact him?
Instagram.
Okay, did you at that time also have a cell phone?
Yes.
And was your cell phone number at that time 678-537-1338?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember what kind of phone you had?
I had an iPhone 8.
Apple iPhone?
Yes.
All right. And I want to show you, well, before I show you an exhibit, let's talk about where at the time, if you knew, you said you had hung out with young vans before, where was he living?
The Mayfield in Midtown.
And had you ever been to that spot or that place where he was living back in November of 2019?
No, not prior to that day.
Was this a fairly new residence or home that he had begun to stay at?
Yes.
And you said you'd been speaking with young men via Instagram?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state's going to tender with remarks to exhibits 24 and then 24A as are under OCGA 24A-803, the certified business records exception as it relates to hearsay or the Instagram records of Miss Laura Riley.
Okay. Ms. Mignot, any objection to the admission of 24A and 24R? What's the difference?
24 is the full Instagram
You know,
extraction of Miss Riley's account, and then 24A is just excerpt conversations that Miss Riley had with young men specifically.
Got it. So 24, when you say extraction, it's not from a device. It would be subpoena or a court order sent to Instagram with certain parameters. And what 24 is a thumb drive or a disk with what Instagram provided in response. Understood. Thank you. Ms. Mignot, any objection to states 24 or 24A?
Just a quick look first.
Ms. Green, is the screen on your table, does it show what's going on or the handsome judge?
It just shows what's going on,
Good.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, well, I'm right here. Okay, we're still trying to fix that one, but someone will be here shortly.
The wheels of justice are going to roll.
So Ms.
right
Mignot,
into the Wayne
any
County
objection
jail.
to states 24 and 24A being admitted?
No objection, Your Honor.
And to the accused, any objection to 24 and 24A?
Yes, my main objection is just lack of preparation for me because I've never seen any of those exhibits or evidence.
Okay, noted. Those exhibits are admitted.
Thank you, Judge. Now, Ms. Riley, I'm gonna show you, 24A, which is an excerpt from, exhibit 24, the full Instagram records. Just a second.
Ms. Riley, if you would touch your screen, where it says stay mute or, yeah, that one, just tap that. Thank you. What I'm gonna do, yes, someone's coming to fix it, but Deputy Gordon, if you don't mind rotating jurors, excuse me, we'll get that podium screen rotated back, but right now the screen on the Mr. Pritz's desk is not working. So there we go. And I've already asked IT to show up and get that thing working again, so.
Judge, if you give me 2 seconds, I will give him, I have an extra laptop, and I can just sign into Zoom and put it in front of him.
Okay, thanks. That'll be a temporary. Since it's text, it'll probably be easier if it's up close than that far away.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, you see, the excerpt 24A, the first page of that exhibit on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to zoom in, and I'm notoriously bad with technology. Okay. So do you see at the very bottom page or part of the first page of 24A where it says recipients, young man, and then Lauren Riley?
Yes.
Okay. Are those the screen names for yourself as well as the person you know as young man, but his real name is Boss Coleman?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see where it says time that it is on the 7th day of November in 2019?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors on the very last message on the first page of 24A where it says text, can you tell the jurors what it says?
I'm at the Mayfair.
Okay. Who's saying that?
Young bands.
Okay. And is that him telling you where he was living at the time in November of 2019?
Yes.
Okay. And we could go through each one of the messages, but I'm not going to do that because that'd be painstaking. But during your conversation, as you and Mr. Youngbands continued to talk that day, did you eventually give you the address and you go to the Mayfair in Midtown Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to show you. It's exhibit 35.
All right, if you're going to keep talking about it, you're going to get more of it.
That photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you recognize it? Or what is it?
I believe they're condominiums.
Okay, and is it the condominiums that you've referred to as the Mayfair where you went to see Young Bands on November 7th of 2019?
Yes.
And is that photograph fairly and accurately depict how the Mayfair condos looked when you went back in November of 2019?
Yes.
This time around, this statement tender what's been marked as State's Exhibit 35 into evidence.
Ms. Mignot, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
And the accused, any objection? Pardon me? Okay, admitted.
That's so awkward.
Now, Ms. Riley, can you tell the jurors about what time of day or night did you and Ms. Lindsay go to the Mayfair where Mr. Youngbands was?
Probably around 10 to 11 p.m.
Okay.
Someone called that a booty call, but I call it
Okay.
Exciting and new.
Who drove?
I did.
Okay. And was it just you and Miss Lindsay in your car? You said it was a Mercedes?
Yes.
When y'all were driving down to the Mayfair, which is depicted in States to the 35 on the screen in front of you.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, you said were you coming from Marietta?
Yes.
About how long does it take for you to drive from Life University of Marietta to Midtown Atlanta to the Mayfair condos?
It was probably about 20 minutes.
Okay. And as you are driving with Miss Lindsay to the condos, are you and Mr. Young Vans, are you continuing to DM and message about where you are and your ETA?
I don't recall if I did or did not.
Okay. And when you get there, can you tell the jurors, were you able to immediately get in?
No.
Okay. Tell the jurors how you ended up getting up to the apartment that Young Vans was staying in.
Young Bands had to come to the lobby to get us to go upstairs.
And when you got there, was there anybody else that came down to the lobby?
No.
Okay. And when you got up to, well, let me ask you this: as you were getting ready to go, do you remember if Young Vans asked you if you were alone?
I do not recall.
Okay. Let me ask you a better question. Did anybody who Young Vans was associated with or friends with have a crush on Lindsay?
Not beforehand. I'm not sure that anyone met her beforehand.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go back to States Exhibit 24A, and specifically it's page 13685 and 686 in the records. And do you see where you and Young Vans are messaging on those pages?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors at the bottom of page 13685, who does Young Vans say he's with?
It says Rick with me.
Okay. And do you see above that where, what do you say prior to that, that he's responding to that's saying, "Oh, Rick is with me"?
I said, "'Cause Lindsay is with me."
Okay. And then if we go to the next page, 13686, what does Young Vans say about Lindsay while y'all are DMing or chatting?
He said he want her to come.
Okay. And who is Young Vans referring to who wants Lindsay to come?
Rick.
Okay. And Rick his real name is Max Pritchett, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge.
Yes? Yes, we don't do questions midway.
I know.
Okay, I understand. We're working on that. We're working on that and we'll rotate that screen as soon as we can. Mr. Dorsey is getting the device back up.
Judge, since I put the computer over there, do you want me to?
Nope, we're good. Thank you.
I rotated it and it all goes out.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to do it. Okay, so you guys get to the Mayfair and you go up to the apartment. And can you tell the jurors, we've talked about Rick Rare's there, you've got Young Vans there, it's you and Lindsay. Is anybody else in the apartment when you arrived? You said it was a little after 11?
Yes, there was a few people that I did not recognize.
Okay. And was the person who you referred to as Baby Slap or Tyrone Robinson, was he present at that time?
No.
Okay. Now, do you have your cell phone with you as well as you are, of course, you're DMing. Are you using your cell phone when you are in the apartment?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, we've talked a little about Instagram, but did you have other social media type accounts on your phone?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have Snapchat?
Yes.
And can you tell some of the jurors who may not know what Snapchat is, what it is?
Seriously?
It's a social media app where you can direct message and send photos to different groups of people or people.
And were you receiving any messages, or did you see any messages that either you or Lindsay were receiving as it relates to a kickback or a party?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jurors a little bit about that.
Well, Christopher Riggs, Snapchat direct message Lindsay, asking us to come to a gathering.
Okay, and had you ever been to a gathering that Mr. Riggs had thrown?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about the gathering. How many?
We went to 2 gatherings. One was about a week or so prior to November 7th.
Okay, and are these gatherings, are they large gatherings? Are they small gatherings? How many people typically are present?
Small, I would say no more than 10 people.
Okay, and what's going on at these gatherings? Is it anything different than what we've talked about, where you said different types of THC and edibles were being consumed?
It was similar to that, yes.
Okay, and specifically when you're seeing the Snapchat messages that Lindsay is receiving on her Snapchat, what exactly are you seeing as it relates to Mr. Riggs' party?
Well, he was posting photos of drugs and money on his Snapchat story.
Okay. And do you eventually get the address for the kickback of the small gathering where Mr. Riggs is having this party?
Yes.
Okay, and is it his home?
No, it was Airbnb.
Okay, and was it located at 1040 Wiley Street here in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the address that you guys received for the invite for the kickback of the party?
Yes.
All right, and when you are receiving, you and Lindsay are receiving these messages through Snapchat, are you communicating this to Young Bands and Recross?
Yes.
And what are you telling them about the messages that you're receiving as it relates to Mr. Riggs' party?
Well, they invite us to go to the party, so I said, let's go to the party.
Okay, and when you say you would go to the party, was it just gonna be you and Lindsay, or were you gonna take both Young Bands and Mr. Pritchett?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
I'll praise Your Honor.
Okay.
Other than Miss Lindsay, was anybody else gonna go to the party with you?
Yes.
Who?
Tyrone Robinson and Max Pritchett.
Okay. And why didn't Young Bands go to the party?
He was on house arrest.
So he had his own issues going on at that time.
Yes.
All right. And you said Tyrone Robinson.
Bless you.
Bless you. Is that the person you said you knew as Baby Slap?
Yes.
You talked about him not being present in the apartment, remember?
Yes.
So how was he gonna go to the party with you guys?
Well, Young Bands called him over before we went to the party.
Okay. And before I guess how long did it take for him to arrive at the condo in Midtown Mayfair?
No more than a half an hour.
Okay. And did he come up to the apartment and kind of meet y'all, or did you guys meet somewhere else?
He came up to the apartment.
Okay. So once he got there, Mr. Robinson got there, can you tell the jurors, were you guys going to have a good time and smoke some weed and do some edibles?
No.
Okay. Tell the jurors, why were you going to Mr. Riggs' party that night?
To lift things from the party.
And when you say lift things, what does that mean?
Take.
Does that mean steal?
Steal.
Okay. And whose idea was it to lift things or take things without Mr. Riggs' permission at his party?
It was my idea.
Okay. Now tell the jurors.
Wow.
Why did you need to or want to lift things from Mr. Riggs' party?
We wanted to get money from it.
Okay, and I guess why?
Why?
Why did you wanna, what did you need money for?
Nothing specific. We just wanted some money from it.
And,
This is all kinds of honest.
how are you gonna take, I guess, items, the drugs, the money, from Mr. Riggs? What was the plan?
To go in the house and just take things from the party.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, did you guys kind of discuss how you were going to accomplish that before going to the Wiley Street Airbnb?
Well, we said we were going to leave Lindsay's phone in the car and text if there was any drugs in there that they could come in and grab.
Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like what you're saying is you and Lindsay were gonna go in. And Lindsay was gonna leave her phone, whose car was?
Objection, Your Honor, now we're leading.
So
I can ask a series of.
you can, and I don't know that you're suggesting the answer, but I know you're also trying to progress through time. But let's take this moment to pause. And Deputy Gordon, if you could rotate, we've reconnected the monitor on the table there. So if we could rotate the one on the podium so jurors have a better view of the rest of the courtroom, and then we can return Ms. Green's laptop. Thank you for Mr. Abates. Thank you for sharing that. And I interrupted. There was an objection. So if you would pose your question again. You remember where you were, or rephrase, or do what you need to do. Sorry about that.
I will ask a different one.
Okay.
So you said, something about leaving Lindsay's phone in a car, right?
Yes.
Whose car, was Lindsay's phone gonna be left in?
My car.
Okay, and, who was going to be inside of your car with Lindsay's phone?
Tyrone and Max.
Okay, and, where were you and Lindsay going to be while your phone, or excuse me, Lindsay's phone is in your Mercedes with Tyrone and Max?
Well, we were in the house, so we were going to go in first, and then they came in after.
Okay, so the plan was is for you and Lindsay to go in first, and
Your Honor, I would object to the narrative, because it's a leading narrative to a question.
I'll add a was.
Okay.
Was the plan for Mr. Pritchett and Mr. Robinson to remain in the vehicle while you and Lindsay went inside?
So don't answer yet.
It's still hearsay. I'm not hearsay, Your Honor. It's still leading because it suggests an answer.
It doesn't though, because her answer could be no, or you're wrong, or it was a different plan, or yes. It's not, isn't this the answer? So I'll overrule it and ask you to repeat your question as best you can.
Yes, thank you, Judge. So I think my question was the plan for you and Lindsay to go in first and Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett to stay in your car with Lindsay's phone?
Yes.
Let me ask you this question. Why did Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett need to keep on or hold on to Lindsay's phone and Lindsay not have it?
So that they knew when to come in the house or if there was something for them to take from the house.
So did they not have phones?
They did not bring their phones.
Do you know why?
I believe that they just did not want to have any evidence of being there.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sustained. You all should disregard that answer. There may be a basis for it, but that's not in the record yet.
So let me ask you this question. Before you guys left the Mayfair young man spot, was part of the plan for both Mr. Pritchett and Mr. Robinson not to bring their cell phones
Yes.
and to leave their cell phones at the Mayfair?
Yes.
And you were going to bring your phone, or you would bring your phone,
Yes.
and Lindsay was only to bring her phone?
So now it's more leading again. I don't want Ms. Mignot to have to stand up each time. So question as opposed to here's what happened, right? Just sort of how it's flowing now.
So the only two phones, or the only two people who were gonna have phones were who?
Myself and Lindsay.
Now, can you tell the jurors after you just kind of figured out this plan? Well, let me ask you this. Was part of the plan for Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett to be armed with guns or firearms?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, did you see a firearm or firearms in young man's apartment and as the night progressed and you got to the party?
Yes.
Describe to the jurors what you saw as it relates to guns.
I saw a firearm or rifle of some sort placed into a black backpack.
Okay, and who had the black backpack that the rifle went into?
Mr. Robinson.
And how long, once you, the four of you got to your car at the Mayfair, did it take for you to get to the Wiley Street Airbnb address?
Not long, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay, and did you drive?
Yes.
And who sat in front?
Lindsay sat in the passenger seat and I drove.
Okay, and were the boys in the back?
Yes.
All right, and about what time was it when you guys were heading over to do the robbery at the Wiley Street party?
Probably around 1 in the morning.
Okay. Now, was there any conversation in the car as it relates to furtherance of the plan once you guys got there?
Could you repeat the question?
So did you guys talk about anything further as it relates to the robbery as you traveled to the party address?
No.
Okay, so plan was set.
Yes.
All right, now, can you tell the jurors, once you got to the party, where did you park?
I
Does that mean you parked on Wiley or some street that intersects with Wiley?
parked on Wiley.
Ma'am, are you a whore?
And once you parked,
I object to the
Ms. Riley,
relevance of that, Your Honor.
did you
All right, what,
immediately get out of the car, or did you guys kind of sit in the car for a few minutes?
I immediately got out of the car.
And did Lindsay come with you?
Yes.
All right. So I want to show you a video from State's Exhibit 21 that was previously admitted yesterday.
You're brave to run it through Zoom, but we'll see what happens.
Got my fingers crossed.
You all may see it about 4 minutes after we do on the big screen, but we'll see. Is the view better now? Thank you for flagging that.
Okay, so do you see the second file within State's Exhibit 21 on the jump drive? Do you see your vehicle on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, and can you kind of describe to the jurors, if you can, from this view, where in relation to where your car is now on the screen, did you park your vehicle?
So this street is perpendicular to the Airbnb.
Okay.
So I would have parked parallel to the Airbnb, which would have been on the left side street of what we're looking at.
Okay, so if we're looking, the way we're looking at it now is the street that you parked on, behind, your vehicle.
Yes,
Okay. And is that your, Mercedes?
yes.
Twenty-two. 22.
Now, thank you. Ms. Riley, can you tell, the jurors, do you remember what you had on that night?
Yes, I just had on a jogging suit and some red sneakers.
Okay. I want to show you, the third video from, State's Exhibit 22 that was previously admitted. Okay, on the screen, do you see yourself and Miss Lindsay walking up to the house?
Yes,
Okay, and is the door, looks like a front door with 6 windows. Is that the front door to the house where the party was?
yes,
Okay. And do you see where you and Miss Lindsay are kind of walking from?
yes,
If the street that you're on, is that the street that you described earlier that you parked on?
yes,
Okay. And you see the person in the white coat?
yes.
Who is that?
That is Lindsay.
Now, Ms. Riley, when you and Lindsay get into the door that you're knocking on now, can you tell the jurors a little bit about what you first saw, what was going on, and what y'all did when you first walked in?
Well, when I walked in, I recognized somebody that I knew, so I said hello. And then we proceeded to go up the stairs and kind of check out the house.
Okay. And who did you recognize, or can you tell the jurors if you remember his name or her name when you first walked in?
Yes, Mr. Christian Hooper.
And how did you know him?
I knew him from high school.
Okay. And did you know anybody else initially when you kind of first walked in the door and kind of started to greet people?
No,
Okay. And did you and Miss Lindsay, when y'all walked in, did you kind of remain kind of together as a pair, or did you both kind of start or go your separate ways and explore the house?
separate ways.
Okay. And where did you go?
I went upstairs.
Okay. And did you go upstairs alone?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you go upstairs?
I went to go look around and see if there was anything I could find to lift.
And when you say lift, do you mean steal?
Yes.
And what were you specifically looking for, had your eye on?
I was looking for the stuff that was on the Snapchat story. So edibles, different forms of THC, stuff that was at the previous party that I went to.
Okay. So this would be a good time. I want to show you State's Exhibits 23. 23 and then 23A, B, and C, okay? I haven't shown this to Mr. Pritchard yet, so I'm sorry. You good? Okay, so Ms. Riley, you had before today that you had an opportunity to meet with and speak to Mr. Hiles, who's a little shorter than it.
Yes,
And during your conversations with Mr. Hiles, was it just you two?
no,
And your attorney present?
yes,
And do you recall going through your phone extraction from the cell phone that you had that night?
yes,
And I want to show you what's been marked as Stacy Exhibit 23. And see if you recognize the jump that. Do you recognize it?
yes.
And how do you recognize Stacy Exhibit 23?
My initials are on it.
Okay, and what is Stacy Exhibit 23 in the exhibit of that you mentioned?
I believe it was multiple things, video footage, text messages.
Was that all stuff from the phone extraction, things, the data from your cell phone that police collected?
Yes,
And did all of the things that you looked at from your phone extractions in State Exhibit 23 fairly and accurately depict as you remember what was on your cell phone, the iPhone, Apple iPhone 8?
yes,
Around the state contender was marked State Exhibit 23 evidence, but I'll do the rest as well. Sorry.
Thank you.
So I want you to look at State Exhibit, here's 23C. We'll just peruse through that and let me know if you recognize it.
yes, I do recognize this.
Okay, and do you recognize, did you have an opportunity to go look at State Exhibit 23A? That program.
Yes, that's correct.
And then 23C, you remember Mr. House kind of showing you a series of text messages from your phone extraction between you and Ms. Lindsay.
Yes,
Okay, and all of the excerpts, so 23A, B, and C, do they fairly and accurately depict things that are from the large extraction 20 States of 23 that Mr. Hiles kind of went through with you when you previously met?
yes,
And this time around, the state pretender was remarked as States Exhibit 23, which is the full phone extraction, States Exhibit 23A, which is a excerpt from the phone extraction involving a picture with the drugs, and 23B and C are also excerpts of text messages.
All right. Ms. Mignot, any objection to what I'm going to call collectively States 23?
23, if it does not have any video footage on it. 23A, no objection, extraction. 23B, no objection, and 23C, no objection. Because the 23 we have, the witness just testified to videos, we don't have it.
Okay. I don't know if there are videos on there. If there are, before anyone would be able to view those, we need to make sure they had been disclosed. So I'm going to provisionally admit all of 23. And then if we need to, before things go out with the jury, and they can't view a thumb drive anyway. We would certainly have to work through discovery concerns you'd have about videos if there are videos on that thumb drive. Okay. And turning to the accused, sir, any objection to the admission of what I'm calling states 23?
That's impaired, that's my first time ever seeing it.
Okay. That is noted. I will admit states 23, A, B, and C as well.
Thank you, Judge. So, Ms. Robbins, so you went upstairs, as you kind of started to, was this the first time you ever been to, this house at Wiley Street?
Yes.
And, when you get upstairs, can you kind of describe to the jurors, I guess, the layout of the upstairs, of the house?
It was just a bedroom and a bathroom.
Okay, and, as you are kind of perusing or going through, the upstairs, the bathroom and the bedroom, do you find anything, of interest?
Yes.
Okay, and can you describe to the jurors, what you find?
I found some THC wax slabs and some wax paper.
Okay, and when you find, the drugs, do you, what do you do?
I stole them.
Okay, and, we kind of talked previously a little bit about, the plan you guys had derived prior to going to the party. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So can you tell the jurors and according to or as it relates to the plan you guys had, once you found the drugs upstairs, what did you do next as it relates to the plan that you had or made with Lindsay and Mr. Pritchett, Mr. Robinson?
Well, I took Lindsay's jacket and I put the slabs of wax inside the jacket so that I could cover them, conceal them. And I ran out of the house.
Okay. And prior to running out of the house, did you have your cell phone on you?
Yes.
And you said Lindsay's cell phone was in your car.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, once you found the drugs upstairs, did you do anything with your cell phone?
I sent a photo of some edibles, a group of drugs, and sent it to Lindsay's phone.
Okay. And this screen in front of you in 2 seconds. Do you see at the very bottom of State's Exhibit 23A where it says, the line is 75023, where it says MMS, message outgoing?
75023.
Oh.
Yes, I see it.
And it's, there's a red empty file at the very last box.
Yes.
Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. Is that the message that you sent to Lindsay's phone when you found the drugs?
Would that timestamp be correct?
Well, let me
'Cause
show
it
you
says-
this. Do you see where it says IMG, our image 2216?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go to the second page of the State Exhibit 23A. I'm going to zoom in again. Do you see in the second kind of row the photo there?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that a photo of?
Edibles and THC cartridges.
And you kind of just asked a question about the times. Remember that?
Yes.
And you don't know anything about UTC time and the conversion between UTC time and Eastern Standard Time and things of that nature, right?
Correct.
Okay. You're not an expert in time zones and how things convert.
Correct.
You just know that you took the photograph that night.
Yes.
Okay. And I want to show you the third page, which is the third page of State's Exhibit 23A, that a larger version of that thumbnail of the photograph you sent to Lindsay's phone while you were upstairs at the address.
Yes.
And for some of us who've never seen any of this stuff, can you describe to the jurors, what are we looking at? What are the, I guess the yellow, it looks like candy to me.
So the nerds are nerds ropes, but they have their they have THC in them. So that's kind of the candy looking wrappers you see in the picture. As far as the smaller cubed boxes, those are small containers of wax, THC.
You've mentioned that before, so I think of wax like a candle. You just eat it, or you burn the wax and inhale the smoke? If you know, how does wax THC get inside? Maybe not me, maybe you.
So you would use a glass sort of pipe and heat it up, and then you would inhale the smoke when it's melted.
And all the items that we're looking at that you started to describe in the photograph in front of you, were all of these found as you described in the upstairs bedroom of the party house?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that you took sheets of wax and ran out of the house, something like that?
Yes.
Do you see any of the, I guess, the sheets of wax that you, I guess, lifted prior to you leaving the home?
No.
Okay, can you describe to yours, what do those look at, or how do they differ from, I guess, the nerds and the wax boxes that we're talking about in the picture before you?
So these are portioned amounts of THC. The THC that I took was sort of just a large quantity smashed flat. And it's a much bigger quantity of the actual THC wax.
Okay.
And it was inside of plastic wax paper.
Okay. It's fair to say it kind of sounds homemade.
Sure, yes.
Okay. And the items that you see on the screen before you in the last page of 23, State Exhibit 23A, are those items that are purchased from, I guess, a store?
Yes, you purchase them from a store, but not in Georgia, somewhere that it would be legal. Marijuana would be legal.
But I guess a better question would be, those aren't homemade goods that, kind of like the ones you just described with the wax sheets that you took?
Correct.
Now, while you're kind of upstairs, does Lindsay ever come up to the top bedroom and bathroom while you find the things that you were looking for?
No.
And the photograph that we were just looking at in 23A, who did you send that to?
I sent that to Lindsay's phone.
Okay, and who had Lindsay's phone?
Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett.
Okay, and as part of the, I guess, kind of plan that we talked about shortly ago, when was, or what was there a cue or a sign for Mr. Pritchett, Mr. Robinson to come in after you guys?
When I ran from the house.
So I want to show you the last video in State's Exhibit 22. All right, so you see on the screen, the person in the white jacket.
Yes.
Who is that?
That is me.
Okay, and when you came into the party, who was wearing that white jacket?
Lindsay.
Okay, and how did you get Lindsay's jacket?
She gave it to me in the house. I told her to hand it to me so I could conceal what I had stole.
Okay, the wax sheets?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors what you are doing here in the video of the front door?
I am running to my vehicle.
Okay, and when you get to your car, what do you do?
I got in the car and I turned on my car and I started to kind of drive around.
Okay, and when you got to your car, was Mr. Pritchett or Mr. Robinson still in the back seat?
No,
Okay, did you see when they left your vehicle?
no,
Okay. Did you know where they were?
no.
Okay. Prior to you and Lindsay getting out of the car, can you tell the jurors, we talked a little bit about the black book bag that Mr. Robinson had with the rifle. Did they have any other items that you saw that was going to be used in the armed robbery?
Just masks.
Okay, can you describe to the jurors what the masks what they look like?
I only recall one. I think it kind of looked like a animal face mask, if I'm correct. I don't really remember the other one.
Okay. But was a part of the plan that you guys had talked about for Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett to conceal their face when they went into the home?
Objection, Your Honor, we're leaving.
Overruled.
You can answer it.
Yes,
All right, so you said you got to your car, no one was in it, and you were driving around?
yes.
Okay, tell the jurors, I guess, a little bit about where you went in relation to the house that we've seen.
So my car was parked, like I said earlier, parallel to the house. So I got in my car and reversed and was driving on the perpendicular street, sort of an intersection, and I was kind of riding up and down that intersection.
Okay, and do you remember the first video that we saw with your Mercedes where you kind of described where you, in relation to where your car was, where you parked? Remember that first video?
Yes,
At the street that you're referring to?
yes.
Okay, and how long, I guess, did you kind of drive up and down that street and in that area before anybody else got into your car?
Probably about 5 minutes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, could you hear anything, or were you close enough to the house where you could hear anything that was going on?
Yes.
Okay, describe to the jurors what you could hear while you were waiting in your car.
Well, I heard just some screaming, some loud yelling.
Okay, and how long did you hear that? What'd you say?
Not long. I think it was just a few screams.
Okay, and after you heard those screams, can you tell the jurors what happened next?
Well, the men ran outside and got in my car.
Okay. And when you say the men, who are you referring to?
Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett.
And where was Lindsay?
She was still in the house.
What, as you are in your car and Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pritchett get in to your vehicle, do they get in the back?
Yes.
And describe to the jurors when they get in, what's going on inside your vehicle? What are they saying, if anything?
Well, they told me to drive off.
Okay.
And I said I wanted to wait to see where Lindsay was. And as we were driving, I saw Lindsay on the side of the road and we picked her up.
Okay. And when they get in your car, they still have a firearm?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see a mask? Are they wearing a mask when they get in?
There was masks in their hands.
And could you see any of the proceeds of the items that they had taken from the upstairs bedroom?
No.
Okay. Did they have a book bag?
Yes.
And you said Lindsay came running down the street, and was she able to get into the car?
Yes.
Okay. And where do you guys go once you're able to get Lindsay in the car?
We went back to Young Ben's place.
Okay. The Mayfair?
Yes.
Okay. And when you get back to Young Ben's condo, can you tell the jurors what you guys do once you get there? What time is it, would you say?
Probably about 3 or 4 in the morning.
And so when you guys get there early that morning, what do you guys do once you get inside the apartment?
Well, we went to young Ben's bedroom and kind of threw everything that was stolen onto the bed.
And on young man's bed, did it look very similar to what we've seen in the photograph that you took inside of the Wiley Street party house?
Was it similar?
Like the items?
Oh, yes, the items, yes.
And can you tell the jurors, I want to back up, so I apologize. While you were in the vehicle or your vehicle driving back to young man's apartment in Midtown, can you tell the jurors, did the defendants throw anything out the windows?
Yes.
What did they throw out the windows?
Phones and wallets.
Did you know who they belonged to or where they came from?
They came from the people in the party.
And as you are driving and they're in the car, are they talking about kind of what happened inside?
No.
Okay. Did they mention that they hit people with the firearm?
No.
Did they ever tell you that they injured anybody inside that home?
No.
Now, once all the items are dumped on the bed and you guys are all kind of looking at it and talking about it, can you tell the jurors, I guess, what is the discussion as it relates to how y'all will split the proceeds, for lack of better words?
Well, they said they would sell the product and that we would get a portion of the money.
Okay. And at that point, did you know how much of the portion of what was sold you were going to get?
No, not at that moment.
Okay. Now, do you spend the night at Young Man's that night, you and Lindsay?
No.
Okay, how long, where do you go?
We went back to our college dorm.
Okay, how long do you think you stayed? You said you got there sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning. How long were you there at the Midtown condo of Young Man's?
Probably no longer than an hour.
And once you guys leave, do you go straight to your dorm room or apartment at Life University?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you and Lindsay, when you get back to Life, go your separate ways to your separate apartments?
I'm gonna do
dorms, or
that.
do you continue to kind of hang out and talk about what happened?
We went to our separate dorms.
Okay. And did any of the boys come with you from Young Man's apartment to your house at the dorms?
No.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, once you got home that morning on the 8th of November 2019, do you talk to Young Man's or Baby Slap or Rick Rare?
I believe there were some text messages.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, who are you text messaging with and what about?
I was messaging Young Bands about if we were going to get some money from the product.
Okay. And do you talk to Lauren about the money as well?
Lindsay, yes.
Excuse me, Lindsay.
Yes.
Okay. And is it kind of the same, the conversation pretty much the same about when and how much you think that you guys will receive?
Yes.
Okay. So. Okay, and in 23B, do you see, the screen in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, do you see, the phone number 898-0084, and where it says, bands underneath it? Let me make it bigger, so I apologize.
Yes.
Is that the phone number for, the person you know as, Young Bands?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see on the screen, do you see where it says in the blue bubbles, this is Rick, tell Lindsay to call me?
Yes.
Okay, is that the person you know as Rick Rare or Max Pritchett using the phone that belonged to Young Man?
Yes.
All right. And then do you see in State's Exhibit 23, which is should now be in front of you, and on page 7,984, where it says, Van said you need to keep asking Rick for the money. You see that?
Yes.
And is that, who is in the blue where it says trap baby, and then it says 678-215-7259?
That's Lindsay's phone number.
And is that an example in your large phone extraction of you and Lindsay kind of discussing after the armed robbery, like you and Lindsay getting proceeds from the sale of the stuff that's stolen
Yes.
or lifted? So at some point, can you tell the jurors, did you kind of stop talking to, or were you blocked on Instagram from Baby Slat and Rick Rare?
Objection, Your Honor, leading. There's been no testimony about any text correspondence between Baby Slat.
Well, I don't think I talked about, I said, was she blocked from communicating with Rick Rare or Baby Slat on Instagram?
Okay, I'll allow it.
I was not blocked by them.
Okay, was Lindsay?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Were either of them still talking to you?
No.
Okay, do you see on the screen where it says, it's on page 7987, let me zoom in, where the person you have saved in your phone as Trap Baby says, so Baby Slat and Rick are still talking to me, so that's good.
Yes.
Okay, and that was a message that was sent after, or was that a message that was sent after the armed robbery on November 8th?
Yes.
Now, at some point, can you tell the jurors, were you contacted by the Atlanta Police Department?
I was, yes.
Okay, and tell the jurors a little bit about how that all went about.
Well, the police came to my house at the time where I was living in Alpharetta and to Lindsay's house. And Lindsay's mom called us and told us that we were wanted for questioning.
Okay, and after you find that out, do you and Lindsay you talk about the fact that you're both wanted to be questioned by the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, and are you nervous?
Yes.
At this point, had you ever had any contact with police as it relates to being involved in any sort of criminal activity?
No.
And did you want to go talk to the police?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
And why?
We were trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay, and why did you kind of want to figure out what was going on?
I wanted to clear up if I was in trouble or not.
Is it fair to say that, or did you want to know if they knew your involvement in the armed robbery?
Yes.
And did you ultimately go speak with detectives with the Atlanta Police Department, specifically Detective Maldonado?
Yes.
Okay. And did you speak to him at your house or somewhere else?
I spoke to him at the precinct.
Okay. Did you come downtown?
Yes.
Okay. And when you spoke to him, did he put you in an interview room?
Yes.
Okay. And was it just the two of you in that room kind of talking?
Yes.
And prior to speaking with Detective Maldonado, had you and Lindsay, I guess, come up with a plan about what you were going to tell the detectives about your involvement and what happened that night?
Yes, we sort of said we just were gonna try to distance ourselves from the situation.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, how are you gonna distance yourself from a situation that you, for lack of better words, initiated? You spotted the people that should be armed wrong. How are you gonna distance yourself from that?
Well, I tried to minimize my involvement.
When you say minimize, did you lie?
Yes.
Tell the jurors, what did you lie about specifically when you first met with Detective Maldonado in November of 2019?
Well, I said I didn't have any idea about them going to rob the party.
Did you explain to Detective Maldonado that you were just a guest at the party?
Yes.
Did you tell Detective Maldonado that, I guess, how you knew the two masked gunmen at that time?
Could you repeat the question?
Did you tell the detective that you knew Mr. Pritchett and Mr. Robinson that night?
No.
And did you tell him anything about the fact that you drove them over there?
No.
Did you tell Detective Maldonado anything about your involvement as it relates to the people at the house being robbed?
Not initially.
Okay. And when you say not initially, when did you tell Detective Maldonado, I guess, additional information about what happened on November 8th of 2019?
Well, after they brought me back in to be arrested.
Okay. And tell the jurors about that. Where were you arrested? What was it like?
Well, I was arrested at the precinct and they left me in the interrogation room. They said I could leave initially, and then as I was leaving, they came with a warrant for my phone and a warrant for my arrest.
So after your first initial encounter, so you talked about you going to talk with Detective Maldonado that day in November, and the interview finished is what it sounds like, right?
Correct.
And you said you were allowed to leave, but as soon as you left, it was almost as if you were arrested, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you willingly give your phone over to the detectives?
I did, yes.
Okay. And is that the phone that you had the night that the armed robbery happened at the Wiley Street Party House?
Yes.
Okay. And after you were arrested, shortly after your first interview, what did you tell the detective, if anything, upon speaking to him after your arrest?
Well, I sort of said the same thing. I still kind of was distancing myself at first. I said that I did drive there, but I did not admit to knowing about them robbing the party.
Okay.
She's got to have a deal.
So
She just
after,
doesn't hold back on anything, which is good.
so is it fair to say that second opportunity, that day, to tell the truth to Detective Maldonado, you didn't?
Objection, I believe.
Did you use that separate opportunity, that second opportunity to tell Detective Maldonado the full truth?
Yes.
So your testimony that you told Detective Maldonado all the ins and outs of y'all's plan and the fact that you were a part of the armed robbery, that second time that you were spoken to that day that you were arrested?
No.
Okay. So where did you go after you were arrested and spoke to Detective Maldonado that second time? Did you go to jail?
Yes, I went to jail.
Okay. And how long were you in jail?
70 days.
And in those 70 days, did you hire an attorney?
Yes,
Okay. And do you see your attorney here in the courtroom?
I do. Yes.
Okay. And after hiring your attorney, were you able to get a bond?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, once you got a bond, what does that mean? What happened?
Well, I got a bond, but I was placed on a 24-hour curfew house arrest.
Okay. And did you have other conditions of that bond?
Yes.
Okay. And were some of those conditions, or was one of those conditions to stay away from, have no contact with gang members, specifically YSL gang members?
Yes,
And did you violate that?
I did.
Tell the jurors how.
I got arrested last year in May for drug trafficking. I was with a gang member as well.
Okay. Who was that gang member?
Reginald Pierce.
And what gang is he a member of?
YSL.
That fair? It's the same gang that you've described that Mr. Pritchett and Mr. Robinson are members of.
Correct.
Now, let me ask you this question. You got the opportunity to be out on bond. Why are you trafficking drugs with a gang member when you know you're not supposed to?
Well, I thought it was sort of fun at the time, and I now realize that that's not the case.
Okay. And I know these are tough questions. But when you say you thought it was fun, you talked about earlier, you went to high school, right?
Correct.
You were in college, right?
Correct.
You knew what you were doing was wrong, right?
Yes.
So don't lead too much.
Sorry. Why, after getting arrested the first time for an armed robbery, getting out on bond, did you think it was fun to continue to traffic drugs with gang members?
Well, I just kind of enjoyed the money aspect. It was quick, fast money. I just kind of enjoyed the studio scene, stuff like that.
Was it something you were experiencing for the first time?
No,
Or was it something you'd experienced before starting to hang out with young bands and Rick Rare and Baby Slap?
no.
Was this new?
She's been bad for a long time.
I guess, were these new experiences?
Asked and answered.
No.
I think you've covered it.
And since your arrest in May of last year, have you remained continuously in the jail?
Yes.
And let me ask you this, after you left Young Man's apartment in Midtown, did you ever see him or Mr. Pritchett or Mr. Robinson again?
No.
And why not?
Well, Young Bands blocked me, and Well, we were arrested shortly after, so that's why we did not see them.
Now, we talked a little bit about the fact that you, on previous occasions, you've spoken to Mr. Hiles, remember that?
Yes,
Okay, and in those communications, can you tell the jurors, did you explain to Mr. Hiles what you told the jury here today?
I did, yes.
And how many times did you meet with Mr. Hiles?
About 4 times.
And each time was your attorney present?
Yes,
And each time that you met with Mr. Hiles, did you tell him the truth?
I did, yes.
And in those times, was it in preparation for your testimony here today before the jurors?
Yes,
Now tell me this, did Mr. Hiles tell you what to say?
he did not.
Did Mr. Hiles at all ever threaten you if you didn't say what he wanted to hear?
No,
At any time did Mr. Hiles make any promises to you if you spoke to him and continued to speak with him?
no.
So tell the jury why at this point did you decide to talk to Mr. Hiles and tell him the truth as it relates to what happened back in November of 2019?
Well, some innocent people were injured and it's the right thing to do.
And can you tell the jurors, do you know what charges you face for this indictment or in this case?
Yes, I do.
Which ones are they? Or what are they?
Well, all of them: armed robbery, aggravated assault, home invasion, simple battery, gang violence.
And at any point in speaking with Mr. Hiles or anyone else,
Yes, she found God.
any promises that made to you as to
Got a plea
leniency
deal,
as it relates to those charges, if you testify
but mostly got a plea deal.
like you have today?
No, I hope that I get some consideration, but no.
So at this point, are you under the belief, under the understanding that all the charges that you faced yesterday are the same charges you face today?
Correct.
And is it your understanding that as you sit before the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that there's no deal or no talks of any sort of deal as it relates to your charges and you testify?
That's correct.
None of us can. But as usual, I can make it worse.
Let's see. One very brief question. And I'm gonna pull it up, but do you remember after the armed robbery in November, you and Ms. Lindsay kind of talking about what happened and people getting injured?
Yes.
And do you remember you and Ms. Lindsay both saying that their actions or the actions that were taken that night were sexy on behalf of the defendants, Mr. Pritchett, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Okay. And are those messages that you went over, you reviewed with Mr. Hiles in your extraction that we've seen here today?
Yes, I've seen them.
Tell me or tell the jury what's sexy about people getting injured and robbed.
It's not.
Why did you say it?
I'm not sure. At the time I was thinking irrationally.
Ms. Riley, do you know what you did or your part in what happened in November 8th of 2019, that it was wrong?
Yes,
Do you regret doing it?
I very much so.
I don't have any further questions at this time. I can redirect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bate. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our morning break. Appreciate your patience. We wanted to get through one part of it. When we return, we'll see if there's any cross-examination from Ms. Riley. During this break, which I'll try to keep to 10 minutes, so 11:13 on that clock. Please don't discuss any of the testimony or anything about the case, no outside research. If you've got questions, they'll be posed to the witness after we get through all the cross-examination as well. So I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.
Well, there we go. It's a responsible host.
So that was the first one you put.
All right, Mr. Bate, anything we need to discuss before we break?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Mignot, after the break, you'll be up with cross-examination. You ready to go with that?
Ready to go.
Anything we need to get on the record now?
No, Judge, we queued, both videos. Yes. For proper procedure.
Okay, got it.
To ease.
Okay. After you've asked questions, and we'll see what answers you get.
That's correct.
And will you let Mr. Abate know, and maybe you already have, or maybe let Mr. Hiles, let the state's team know where in there you're looking at, so they aren't reacting after things have been played, but they know what's coming. Great, if you could do that over the break. And Mr. Pritchett, anything we need to talk about before we take a break?
The only real objection I have is my ability to properly cross-examine the witnesses is highly impaired because of this lack of disclosure throughout my process of seeing the discovery.
Okay, noted. We're going to take a break. During the break, if you don't mind, Deputy Gordon, I got a bunch more note cards. They're right on the corner there to just restock those 3
Thanks,
files.
big dummy.
All right, and Ms. Riley, we'll get you back out here right after the break.
All right.
Thank you. I'll mute the microphone.
Oh, that was fun. That was fun. I heard this. I was tipped off by the chat on this that these two are going to testify, which makes all the sense in the world. I was wondering how the state was going to put this together. Now I know. They've got her and maybe the other one putting these guys at the scene. I mean, that's strong testimony. It was my plot. I drove them over there. They were in the back of the car. They went in there, and that, you know, you start out with the scene. That makes sense. Think about it from the prosecutor's perspective. They teach us as attorneys, you're like, you got to have some organization, but generally, not always, but generally chronological is good. And you need to sort of lay the foundation for a jury, not for with evidence, not like, you know, a foundation for evidence, but the first thing out of the chute has to be, what the hell happened? A jury sitting there, they've been through voir dire, they've been told, they might have been told it's an armed robbery, but that's all they know. And they're sitting there. You can't start with this one. You're like, who the hell is she? And why are we listening to her? And none of this matters. No, you have to show the thing. So you bring the victim in with his glowing tennis shoes and his lace shirt. And you show you do exactly what they do. You get to him as quickly as possible to give the narrative. Prior to him, I didn't show those witnesses, but they had 2 cops, and it's like we went out to see and investigated, and there was an incident, but it was really boring, so I didn't show it. So the first thing you want to do is say, hey, what the hell happened? Well, it was an armed robbery of some, you know, knuckleheads having their drug party. Fine. The next thing you want to do is have those pictures of that guy with the blood spurting out of him while he's testifying. Put the pictures in through them. Now everybody understands what happened and the seriousness of it. Those are the first things you do. So meanwhile, the defense attorney is going up to every witness saying, you can't ID the person. And that's her job. That's one of the things. I have some serious issues with what the defense attorney is doing. But that's one of the things the defense attorney is doing right. Of course, you ask every witness and why can't they ID him? Because your client's a professional criminal, but not not a good one, but an intentional criminal who planned this so that he couldn't be identified. But at least preserve the argument. No one pointed him out at the scene. I see her defense right now. Her defense is no one pointed him out at the scene. And then she keeps hammering this Snapchat or the social media. Hey, we got drugs and stuff. So her theory to create reasonable doubt is going to be, who knows where that Snapchat went out? Somebody, there's all of Atlanta knew this. They could have been robbed by anybody, which isn't what happened. These people did it, but logically, not a bad thing to say. It is true. You've just created a bunch of potential people. You're in the hood, and you've just advertised that you have drugs and money, and this is not, this party isn't exactly a group of enforcers, if you know what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch. That is how you defend it, not because it's a great defense, but because it's the best thing you got. Now, all the defense attorney has to do here, is say, you can't believe this girl. She's a liar. She's telling you that she did all this stuff. She's telling you she's lying, which she did. I actually do believe her version of events at this point, at least in part, mostly. She's saying things against self-interest. She's up there, she's caused herself problems with the big gang in Atlanta. But she's going to go up. She wants to go up there and say she did this for a deal. I missed it. I'm reading in the chat that she doesn't have a deal. If she doesn't have any deal yet, she's got an indication. They might hold it off. It's sort of a side deal. Hey, show up and testify, right? And you might see the light of day again. If you don't, you won't. We'll prosecute you, and we've got the goods on you. So it's very interesting. You see the rest of the case. I don't know if the other lacrosse chick, whatever player person, her roommate that she testifies about, I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's going to be on board with this or not. I'm guessing she is. I'm guessing the state's got goods on her. Same leverage going to her saying, "Hey, do you want to spend the next decade in a women's prison?" Filled with men now, by the way. Or do you want to, spill the beans about this case? And she's probably on board too. We'll find out. I don't know. That's why I see it. So this case is all tied up as far as I can tell. But yeah, she's saying all this stuff. I don't believe that she found God. I believe that she's working in self-interest now. She didn't say she found God, but she said, no, it's the right thing to do. I don't think the right thing to do has ever been in her vocabulary. I don't think it ever will be. I do think she was honest. She's like, oh, I thought it was fun or whatever. That I think is incredibly honest. People get a high from this. People specifically want to be bad. It's very understandable to me. I've seen it for a long time. I get it. It's a thrill. It's a thrill. She's obviously doing dumb and dangerous things on purpose, and she doesn't need to. I mean, I don't know her full background, but it looks like she's fine. She's on a scholarship. She's certainly not forced into it. It's thrill seeking. It's thrill seeking behavior for someone who's it's thrill-seeking behavior, and she thinks that she's basically immune to any consequences because people aren't taught consequences in this society anymore. So they just think that they can cry and get out of it. And she knows she's not going to do the heavy lifting on the violence. And she can always turn and do just what she did. She can always turn on the people. I mean, these guys are not good criminals. Vans or whatever his name is, Baby Vans, whatever the hell that guy's name is. I'll tell you what, you don't recruit a soft sit and a couple of chicks into your schemes. This is no way to conduct an unarmed robbery. I mean, I've never done it, but I can tell you, and I don't plan on it, but I can tell you that those things would be off the list. Off the list. If I'm on the verge of concocting some, serious felony action, those are two things off the list for me. Everyone, you do it your way. Oh, all right. There'll be no. Come on, people. Look at this. I'm basically not wearing a shirt here. What else do you want? I'm not going lacy. Do I look? I'm doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You can all just let it go. I mean, I can't compete with this. That how do you top it? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. We'll all be in trouble. So that's what we have. You have people who are. It's. I don't have the answers. And I see how society's evolved this way. It evolved as usual. It evolved with. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and we got here with good intentions. Nobody should experience anything adverse. Okay, well then you get morons. That's what you get. You get morons. This girl never had any consequences in her life. She'd like, ooh, I can play gangster. Nothing bad will ever happen. She's lucky she isn't. She's still alive right now. Oh my God, I babbled this whole time.
And whatever order's easiest for you. Maybe Riley first. He's bringing the rest of the guys out? Great.
I say the words that she said, or
Sure. I need for you to tell me what went on.
that I'm not on that whole shit. I'm not with that whole shit.
Yeah, without getting into further detail, there were drugs involved that people were giving to me that ended up being glue. Like I smoked some glue and stuff. I thought I was smoking crack, and
So here's my preview of Cross right here.
Ma'am, are you a whore? I object to the relevance of that, Your
All right, Ms.
Honor.
Rivers, let's get back on the record, please. In State
I'll
versus
tie it up real
Pritchett
quick,
and
Judge.
Robinson, we
All right, go ahead.
have both our defendants here.
You're not a whore?
Ms. Riley is back on the stand. Mr. Abate, anything from the state before we bring the jurors back in? All right, Ms. Mignot, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go, Your Honor, but I just need to find out from the court, we are plugged up to HDMI. Is there a remote if we have to get there just for efficiency that we would use to?
I don't know. Mr. Howes might know. He's more of the master of plugging stuff in.
I will show you right now.
What are you trying to say here, Judge?
Here's the toggle button right here. Press this button.
This is going to be ugly. This defense
And then
attorney
press that. You just slide over to the left.
is
HDMI1, and it'll
not
show whatever is,
particularly smooth,
hooked up to the.
but any defense attorney in this circumstance has got to destroy this witness.
One thing to
That's
note,
your
I
only
would not-
chance.
You do not
You gotta be me.
simultaneously have.
You've
the
got to
Zoom
crush their credibility.
and
You
that
got
TV
to
going at the same time.
tell them, you
It
got to
will
imply
create
and
an
insinuate
even
all
nearer
sorts of nastiness.
interplay impact.
And there's
That'll
a
be
lot-
fun. The dilemma we're gonna have is if you're running something through there, it'll be a little tricky for Ms. Riley to see it. She can peek around, but the more we run it through Zoom, the better because of where she's seated.
So you can run it, I should rephrase that. You can, do not be sharing your screen on Zoom when you're hooked up to the television.
Right.
So, does that make sense?
Yes. So.
I can
she's
just
gonna-
send them an
she's
invite.
gonna be my
I'll
director,
talk
Your Honor.
with
She's
Mike
gonna
and they can
cue
do
music
it that
and
way.
If necessary, I'm still gonna go through the legal procedures.
Yeah.
So what I'll have her do is try to do Zoom first, and then if that's getting too delayed, then we'll stop. And it'll be an easy fix because we're already queued up.
Great. Yeah, let's start with Zoom and right, if that's funky, not going well, or you can't start and stop in the way you want, which is highly likely, then we'll flip it over to HDMI. All right. And Mr. Pritchett, anything before we bring the jury in? Other than the usual?
Yeah, but the usual is like very intense on me right now.
Okay.
Because like I said, I'm just not nowhere prepared to properly exercise the right cross-examination, being that I had, like I said, 5% maybe the discovery.
Okay. Others might say you are uniquely qualified to conduct a cross-examination of this witness. So you've made your record and we're going to see how it plays out. All right, let's bring the jurors in, please.
That would be great. If he cross-examines her, that would be great. Because he'll probably do something stupid. Like say, no, that's not the way it happened, thereby putting himself at the scene like a mope. Get ready. It's about to happen. Oh, yes, the moment you've been waiting for. Here it is. Any minute now. The anticipation.
Great, thank you. Please be seated, everyone. Welcome back. We have Ms. Riley still on the stand, and I'm now going to see if there's any cross-examination. And I'll start with you, Ms. Mignot. Any cross-examination of Ms. Riley?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's do it.
Good morning, Ms. Riley.
Good morning.
My name is Marcia Mignot, and I represent Mr. Tyrone Robinson, sitting here next to me at council table. I'm going to go directly to the questions you just answered. I'm going to be asking you some responsive questions. You just testified on direct examination that you knew my client, Tyrone Robinson, and you knew him as Baby Slat. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Isn't it true that on November 16th of 2019, when you were interviewed by Detective Maldonado, you stated that you did not know Mr. Robinson?
That's correct.
And in fact, you also stated you didn't even know what his name was, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You also stated that you did not know any of the people in the party other than Chris Riggs. You remember stating that to Detective Maldonado?
Correct.
And now today you have testified that you knew Mr. Hooper. Correct?
Correct.
So you were lying when you stated that you only knew Chris Riggs.
Yes.
As it pertains to the party, you told Detective Maldonado that both you and Lindsay went to your friend's house, Sandy, the evening before November the 8th of 2019, correct?
That may be correct. I don't remember that.
You don't remember telling Detective Maldonado that you went to Sandy's house, and then after leaving Sandy's house, you decided to go to Young Band's house?
I lied a lot of that interview, so I would not deem that credible.
So you lied throughout the entire interview? Is that your testimony?
Initially.
You advised Detective that Chris is a drug dealer. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And you stated that there was lots of drugs and alcohol in the property, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you arrived, you testified that you went upstairs, and when you were upstairs, I think you used the word lick or lift?
Lift.
Okay, you lifted wax marijuana.
Correct.
And that you hid the wax marijuana in Lindsay's jacket because you had taken Lindsay's jacket.
Correct.
Lick?
Now, we don't see anything on what was played this morning where you were taking Lindsay's jacket, correct?
Well, in the video of me running away from the house, I had on her jacket.
Okay. But prior to you going into the house, you did not have on the jacket.
Correct.
Now, when you went upstairs, Rebecca went upstairs with you, right?
Who's Rebecca?
Okay. Was there anybody else at the party, another female at the party other than you and Lindsay?
Yes.
Do you know what that female's name is?
I do not.
Did any female go upstairs with you?
I don't recall.
When you went upstairs to get the drugs, who was upstairs with you?
Initially, it was Chris, and then I was by myself.
When you said Chris, there were a couple Chris's. Which Chris?
Oh, sorry, Riggs.
So did you go upstairs with Chris Riggs, or you went upstairs by yourself?
I went upstairs and Chris was upstairs, and then I stayed up there by myself.
So when you went upstairs, Chris was already up there.
Yes.
And when you got upstairs, Chris came back downstairs and left you upstairs.
Correct.
And you were the only person upstairs at the time with the drugs.
Correct.
You told Detective Maldonado that you saw a girl snorting stuff at the party. Do you remember saying that?
I do, yes.
Was that girl Lindsay snorting stuff?
No.
And there were only 3 girls there, right?
Including myself?
Including yourself.
Correct.
Detective Maldonado asked you why you didn't call the police after the incident. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And you advised him that if you were a drug dealer, you wouldn't want the police called on you. You remember saying that?
yes,
And you didn't call the police because you were concerned that Chris Riggs and the other individuals there would have been arrested for having illegal drugs on the property, right?
I don't remember saying that.
You don't remember saying that you wouldn't call the police if you were a drug dealer?
No, I don't remember saying that.
Your Honor, I am at that place where
She doesn't recall saying it, so tell me what you think the next step is.
I do have a recollection I can refresh.
And you can do that without the jury seeing and hearing it?
Not because of the format it's in.
All right, Mr. Abate, how would you like to proceed?
I have headphones and she'd like to put them in her computer.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to excuse the jury for each time we're refreshing her recollection. So I don't know we could try headphones if you've got a laptop or what.
I can get another laptop here.
Okay, we have a bunch of laptops. So we already lent one to the accused.
We could lend one to her.
Okay,
Just for this witness.
correct.
I want to be clear, we're refreshing her recollection as to,
Yeah, ask your question again, please, about, she did say, I don't recall. I just didn't, I'm not remembering what it is she doesn't recall, because I also want to make sure it's material.
If I was a drug dealer, I do not want the police called. She said that. So I'm asking her, isn't it true you said that? And her response was, I don't recall. So I'm about to refresh her.
Is it possible you said that to Detective Maldonado?
It's possible. I just didn't recall.
Okay,
she can play it.
just play it out loud? Okay, if you want to play that one out loud.
I feel bad for her on this cross. She wants to have a big dramatic moment calling this woman a liar, but she's already conceded to being a liar.
But also, she was out of the house and I was also out of the house. We didn't know that they were gonna call the police. Because they had drugs and alcohol everywhere. Like, we didn't know that was what was gonna happen.
Well, I mean, when you called, you said,
I mean, if I was a drug dealer and I had drugs and alcohol, I don't know if I would call, but I also.
Miss,
stop.
So what we just heard is a mischaracterization of what the question was. It wasn't, it was, she was explaining why they didn't call the police, not why she didn't call the police. But I'll withdraw my objection. We can move.
Okay, all right, but let's make sure, if you're asking her to recall what she said, was it in response to a question? Who is it who wouldn't call? Because I don't know that we should have received that context, but getting that context was actually helpful to see why those words came out of her mouth. The jury's heard them, and we'll move forward.
now you testified on direct examination this morning that you gave your phone to the police.
Correct.
Isn't it true that you gave your phone to the police after you were provided a subpoena for the phone?
Well, I went to the interview and they asked me what kind of phone I had. And no, that was not, well, they asked for my phone. They gave me a subpoena and I handed my phone, but I was still questioned after that.
Right, but my question to you is, you turned over the phone to law enforcement after law enforcement gave you the subpoena and said, give us the phone.
Correct.
Now,
You advised Officer Maldonado that you did not know who the second male was that was with both you and Lindsay, and someone you referred to as Rick. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And you also were in the room with Investigator Maldonado when he showed you the cell phone and asked you, was this the person? He pulled up his cell phone and showed you and said, is this the person we're talking about?
Okay, yes.
Now, let's talk about how many times you have been to the Mayfair property that is depicted in the photograph you identified this morning. How many times prior to November the 8th had you been to the Mayfair condominium?
No times.
So this was your first time at Young Band's home?
Correct.
But you had known Young Bands prior to that day, approximately a year?
Correct.
And when you met Young Bands the year before, you had never met my client, Mr. Robinson, correct?
Correct.
In fact, your statements to Detective Maldonado was you had no idea who my client was, even the night of November the 8th, 2019. Correct?
Correct.
Now, you originally stated that the phone that was left in your car was your phone, correct?
It was Lindsay's phone.
Okay. But when you were first speaking with investigators, Maldonado to be specific, you advised him that you had gone to your phone, to your car, because your phone battery was dead.
Yes, I did say that.
Okay. And you didn't tell him at that time that the phone that was in the car was Lindsay's phone, right?
Correct.
But today you're telling us that the phone's now switched and it's no longer your phone that was in the car because the battery was dead, but Lindsay's phone was in the car.
Correct.
Now, you had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Hiles, the prosecutor in this case, about the circumstances after you were arrested, correct?
Correct.
And after you were arrested, Mr. Hiles asked you about Baby Slat and his participation in the November 8th, 2019 incident, right?
Correct.
And you then changed your story, correct?
Yes.
Now, you testified that you got Snapchat notifications from Chris Riggs to Lindsay's phone that notified you all of the November 8th, 2019 party. You remember that testimony?
Yes.
And that Snapchat goes out to more than one person, correct?
No, it was a direct message to Lindsay.
Okay. So you don't know how many people other than Lindsay was invited to the party.
Correct.
And the pictures you looked at showed money and drugs, correct?
Yes.
And based on your testimony that you are familiar prior to this incident with gang activity or gangs, you know that if you post some type of Snapchat like that to someone who is in a gang or someone who wants to commit a robbery, they can come to your party and rob you, right?
Could you rephrase that question?
So if you don't know who it's posted to, and based on your knowledge of gang, you said you were part of the gang, right?
Okay.
You testified to that this morning, that you're part of the gang?
Okay.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And based on your knowledge, if you post money and drugs to a gang member, they might decide to come and rob you, right?
I'm gonna object this to cause speculation.
How is that not speculation?
Yana, I'm asking her based on her knowledge and experience of how gangs operate, since she said she's a member of the gang.
So as I understand it, she got involved with whatever she got involved with on or around the 7th. And so you're asking her as a gang expert on the 8th, isn't this what would happen? So I'm thinking that it would call for speculation as to what she thought then, maybe what she would think now. She's testified about what her life has been like since November 8th, 2019, but on November 8th, I don't believe the record establishes that on November 8th or November 7th, 2019, she would be in a position to do anything other than speculate to the answer of your question. I may have misunderstood your question, but I thought you were wanting her to comment on, at the time that that Snapchat thing went out, wouldn't you be thinking about X and Y and Z?
Okay, that being no.
Then just ask it in a slightly different way. And it may be that it doesn't.
My question came from, Your Honor, and the record may have something different. Her direct examination where counsel asked her, was that her first time? And she had said no.
It's
the first time going to,
not helping you.
I can't remember what they're not called parties. They're called kick events, kickbacks. It wasn't your first kickback.
No.
Okay.
Okay. And I believe the question was also first experience.
Can McBurney get any more square?
Why don't you explore that? I don't think that I don't think there's a foundation for her to answer the question the way you asked it. You may be able to lay it.
Then I'll go. Prior to November 7th, you had hung out with gang members before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you had met several of them almost a year before the November 8th, 2019 incident.
Correct.
You've hung out at parties with them. You've seen how they operate in the community, right?
Yes.
In fact, I believe some of your testimony was you thought that lifestyle was fun, right?
Correct.
All right. So you would have knowledge based on your experience prior to November 8th with gangs of how you have seen them operate.
Correct.
So let me ask my question again. If someone is posting like Chris Riggs did in a Snapchat to someone who is a gang member that they have money and drugs, that could be a target for a gang member to rob them, right?
Action speculation.
Speculation and Snapchat disappears. You can't post.
That's a speaking objection, Your Honor. And
we all seem to engage in that, but I'm gonna allow her to answer the question if you understand it.
I wouldn't.
I really don't understand the question.
I'll move on.
Good witness. I'll let her answer if she wants to. I don't want to.
Today you told this jury that it was Tyrone Robinson and Max Pritchett that was supposed to go to the party with us. You remember that testimony?
They did go to the party with us.
Okay. You said Tyrone Robinson and Max Pritchett, right?
Yes.
Isn't it true that on November the 16th, 2019, when you spoke to Detective Maldonado, you told him you had no idea who the second person who you're now alleging to be Tyrone Robinson was?
I was lying during that interview.
Oh, so you did know the name during that interview?
I didn't know his name, but I know who he is.
Okay. So as it pertains to your testimony that Tyrone Robinson, you didn't know that name on November 8th, 2019, right?
I didn't know either's full name.
Okay. And you didn't know the name Max Pritchett either? Is that your testimony?
Correct.
Now, you figured out those names after your interaction with law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
And I believe your testimony was this entire incident, robbery, fiasco, harm to individuals on November the 8th, 2019 was your idea.
Correct.
Isn't it true that that's why Young Bands blocked you from messaging him after he found out you were engaged in this type of conduct?
No, that is not why he blocked me.
But he did block you.
He did.
You all were even worried that all of Young Band's friends
Lord
would also not want to have anything to do with you.
Young Bands was shocked.
It was not about, it was about receiving money. It was not about worrying whether or not they were gonna talk to us.
You had correspondence with Lindsay in the exhibits that came in this morning that said, thank goodness Rick and Slack did not block me. Did you see that this morning that council showed to you?
I did.
And isn't it true that you all were concerned, meaning you and Lindsay were concerned that you would not be able to engage in what you considered the lifestyle you're interested in if the friends of young bands was also upset with you?
It wasn't an upset thing. Like I said, it was just a money concern.
Okay, so you were bothering them for money.
Well, they robbed the party, and the drugs from the party we were supposed to get proceeds from. So that was the concern.
Okay, so you were asking them for money.
Yes.
And them specifically being young bands.
Yes.
And when you asked young bands for money, he blocked you.
Correct.
Now, young bands is not my client, correct?
Correct.
You testified this morning that part of the plan for the November 8th robbery was to have guns. Do you remember that testimony?
Correct.
You never said that prior to today's testimony, correct?
I have in my interviews.
Okay. And you've said it after you were in custody, correct?
Correct.
And during your interview on November the 16th of 2019 with Detective Maldonado, you never said anything about guns, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, both you and Lindsay specifically said, oh, we did not see any guns with the two people that was in the car with us.
How's she gonna know what Lindsay said?
Did you have conversations with Lindsay?
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, Lindsay is going to be called as a witness in this case.
Okay, so we'll ask Lindsay when she's here.
Let me change my question for you. In terms of your communication with Detective Maldonado, guns were never mentioned that you had knowledge of.
Correct.
And in fact, the information you provided to Detective Maldonado was that Mr. Robinson was not part of the plan, correct?
I didn't say that.
You never said that.
I don't recall.
Did you ever say Mr. Robinson was part of the original plan to rob your friends at the or Chris Riggs at the November 8th party?
Could you repeat the question?
Did you ever say that Mr. Robinson was part of the conspiracy, plan, arrangement to commit the robbery on November the 8th of 2019?
Say to whom?
Say to Detective Maldonado.
Not initially.
And the first time you said that was after you were in trouble, right?
Correct.
And in custody, right?
Correct.
Because you're trying to save yourself.
Yes.
They sure can.
Now, you testified this morning that you did not see when any males entered the Airbnb on November 8th. You remember that testimony?
Correct.
So isn't it true that you don't know who those two men were that went into that house?
I do, because they came back into my car.
Okay. And as it pertains to your role, you don't know what happened inside the house because you told Detective Maldonado you had already gone to your car, right?
Yes.
You testified this morning that you know that the phones and wallets were taken from the individuals inside the party. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. You made that statement, although you also testified that you were not aware that anyone was injured.
I was not at the time.
And in fact, when you were told about the phones and the wallets, you would have also been told that I hit somebody in the head, right?
I believe that's up to whoever said it. That doesn't mean that they just said that they hit somebody.
Okay.
If there was phones and wallets.
So you didn't hear anything about anybody saying they hit anybody?
No.
Isn't it true the only reason you're telling this jury that you didn't see anybody get injured or you didn't know anybody get injured is to once again save yourself?
No, I didn't see anybody get injured.
And you didn't see anybody's phone or wallets get taken either, did you?
I did not.
That's the only good argument she has. You'll say whatever you need to save your.
You don't have any text messages on November 8th, 2019
But she
to my client,
destroyed it
Mr.
with a bunch
Robinson,
of other
correct?
nonsense first.
Correct.
You don't have any text messages to my client, Mr. Robinson, on November 9th, 2019, correct?
Correct.
Now, counsel showed you states Exhibit 23B, and you were looking at text messages dated April the 12th of 2019 this morning. Did you recall seeing those?
April the 12th?
Correct.
Okay, correct.
That was way before the date of the incident, right?
Correct.
You stated that you were lying throughout your entire interview with Detective Maldonado. You remember that statement?
Yes.
So how will this jury know when you're not lying?
Good argument, dumb.
I'm being truthful now.
Just give the witness a chance to
I'm
rehabilitate.
not sure how to answer that question.
They don't know.
Dumb.
Correct. Correct.
Opposing counsel asked you a question this morning. You were offered and received that there were no deals, no talks of deals for you to receive, correct?
Correct.
And you also told this jury that you're facing the exact same charges as these two individuals sitting here today, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you received immunity in this case?
No.
Madam, may I approach the witness?
You may. You and Mr. Bate have the ability to do that.
I'm showing you what's been marked for identification purposes, defendant's exhibit 16.
Do you have an exhibit list?
I have a courtesy copy.
I don't need the exhibit. I just need an exhibit list. Sounds like we'll get one. You keep going, but let's just make sure, because 16 tells me there's 1 through 15. It's just be helpful to have a list so I can keep track.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But defendant Robinson 16 is presently in front of Ms. Riley.
Your Honor, defendant's 16 is a certified.
You shouldn't tell me what it is. It's not in evidence yet. I'm just making sure we call it defendant Robinson 16. We've got two defendants here. So this is defendant Robinson 16. Before you go any further, Mr. Abate.
I'm going to object as it relates to the foundation that's been established for this exhibit as it relates to immunity. She said no. I understand she's attempting to impeach her, but this is I don't have a speaking objection. But
No, well, right now, it's just in front of this witness. We shouldn't talk about its contents, but Ms. Mignot can ask this witness, do you recognize this? Does this, so we're not at a point yet to say it's coming in or its contents can be shared. It's Ms. Mignot is making a clear record that the thing known to the lawyers as defendant Robinson's Exhibit 16 is now in front of Ms. Riley.
Thank you. May I proceed?
You may.
Thank you. Ms. Riley, are you complete with reviewing defendants Robinson's 16? And if you need more time to look over it, just let me know.
Yes.
You need more time to look over it?
No, I don't.
Do you recognize it?
I do not recognize this.
Is it a document regarding you?
Well, she doesn't recognize it, so we're done with that inquiry with this witness.
Okay, so Your Honor, we may need to approach. This is a document that is
Okay. And in what way is it self-authenticating?
It's certified court records.
Okay.
And under the rules of
But
evidence.
she doesn't recognize it. So what's your next question going to be? She says, I don't know what this is.
Okay.
Okay.
We can make it part of the record. I'm fine to say defendant Robinson 15 is admitted to the record. Whether the jury sees it or not, TBD, but let's 100% make it part of the record. It's in. This witness has just said, I don't recognize this. So what's your next question about that without getting into its contents?
Okay. You received immunity in this case, didn't you, Ms. Riley?
I was not aware of this.
Are you aware now after reviewing the document?
Yes.
Okay. You received immunity, correct?
Yes.
And you received immunity regarding every conduct that you had in this case.
Objection, that's mischaracterization.
You need to be careful here because that's not how immunity works. It relates to testimony and testimony only, and that's not how you just phrased
I
it.
can rephrase it, Judge.
Let's be careful about how we do this and keep it at the layperson level, not the lawyer level, but also make it accurate because it doesn't have to do with conduct other than the conduct of testimony.
You received immunity regarding your testimony against my client in this case. Correct?
Correct.
And you received immunity to provide the testimony that you are providing today. Correct?
Yes.
So when you testified this morning that you're only testifying because you regret doing what you did and because people got hurt, there was another motive as to why you testified today, right?
No.
You're going to be saved by immunity regarding your testimony.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to interrupt you. I need to tell you how immunity works, and you'll get an instruction on this in the jury charge. Immunity is simply what you say under oath can't be used against you later. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you won't be prosecuted for what you've been charged with. It does mean that what you say under oath cannot be used against you in that prosecution. Full stop. Continue your questioning.
May I have a moment here?
Sure.
Ms. Riley, when you spoke with Detective Maldonado, you asked him, what can I do to get out of this, didn't you?
Yes.
And part of what you can do to get out of this is testify in this case, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Mignot. I'm going to turn now to the accused. Sir, do you have questions for Ms. Riley?
Oh, good Lord, please.
Okay, if you'd come.
I do need a minute to fully, I guess, finish what I can. Because like I said, this is my first time seeing what I haven't even seen, you know, something.
Okay, so the If you have questions, now is the time to ask them. You can bring your papers up to the podium, but now isn't the time to tell me about what you don't have because you've chosen to represent yourself on the eve of trial. If you would like to ask questions of Ms. Riley, this is your opportunity to do so. And if you're going to, I'd ask you to come to the podium with whatever materials you want to bring with you.
Can I get a minute to finish gathering?
Sure, I'll give you 2.
Just 2 minutes.
You asked for 1, I gave you double what you asked for.
Can I ask again? Can I please get 10 to 15 minutes?
That's not how this works. I'll give you a couple minutes if you want, but I need you to go to the podium and ask whatever questions you think are legally proper questions for Ms. Riley.
Set a stopwatch. Set a 2-minute alarm right now. By the way, that's very normal. A lot of times, if when they send a witness over to you, you can say to the judge, you might be making notes or whatever, and you say, "Can I just have a minute to gather myself?" Literally a minute or 2. Happens every day. That's not strange. So the judge is giving him what he would give an attorney. But no, you can't say to the judge, I need a half hour. That's not how it works.
Oh, man, I got to get together.
All right. All right.
Ma'am, are you a whore?
There were drugs involved that were given to me that ended up being glue. Like I smoked some glue and stuff. I thought I was smoking crack.
Let's go.
You didn't say the cat jumped on his wiener, did you? Sit down and shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up.
Can you just let this go for once?
Oh, yes. And the check's in the mail.
Okay, that being no.
Was 16 admitted?
16's the letter?
It's certified. 16.
Yes, no, it is admitted as part of the record, so you'll want to get, I guess it's with, it can stay right there. But when we're done with Ms. Riley, we'll make sure as defendant Robinson 16, it's made part of the record. You bet. And I got a copy of the exhibit list. I'll print that out during the break, so we're good to go.
2 minutes have passed.
All right, sir, I'm gonna ask you to come to the podium now. You've had several minutes to further prepare your line of questioning for Ms. Riley. So if you would like to pursue that line of questioning, if you would gather up your papers and come to the podium.
Yeah, like I got a supplier for that. It'd be fun.
I appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
Please, I just ask everybody to bear with me if I tend to stop while I talk and, gather my thoughts.
Okay, well, whenever you're ready to start with the first question.
Ask a question.
You testified earlier that, let me go back. You recall your interview with Detective
Maldonado.
Maldonado? You recall that interview?
Yes.
And it's safe to say we can break that interview into two parts. One part where you said you lied, and the second part where you testified today that you took that opportunity to tell the truth. We can break that interview down into two parts, correct?
Correct.
That didn't even make sense. But no one's going to object because they don't want to hear this guy's response.
Do you recall on the first part, again, just to clarify again, that's where she testified that she lied. On the first part of the interview, can you recall telling the detective that it was just you and Lindsay in the car going to the party?
Yes.
And do you recall now, if I'm jumping around, please bear with me. Like I said, the interview's two parts, but can you recall in the second part of the interview stating to the detective after he asked you why you were driving with no lights on, that you said there was no explanation for why you were driving with no lights because there was nobody else in the vehicle?
Correct.
And again, that was on the second part of the interview where you testified today that you were telling the truth.
I was not telling the truth during that interview.
Okay. You testified earlier, though, that you took that second opportunity to tell the truth, though, correct?
Correct.
Before you go any further, I'm a little confused. How many interviews, like separate sit downs, did you have with Detective Maldonado?
So I had one initial interview when he subpoenaed my phone. And then after he let me leave, he called me back in with, I believe there was a sergeant present, and then conducted another interview with the sergeant present.
Same day, several days later?
Same day.
Same day?
Yes.
So you met with Detective Maldonado twice on the same day?
Correct.
Okay. And when you were responding to the accused's question about really divide the interviews into two, not telling the truth, telling the truth, is there also that divide by time? In other words, the first time you sat down with him, not truthful, the second time you sat down with him on the same day, truthful, or that's not the divide you would draw?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Mr. Pritchett.
And do you recall on the second part of the interview do you recall you stating to the detective that the males followed you from the previous location you were at before the party?
I don't recall saying that.
And do you recall again in the second part of the interview telling the detective that you did not know or see that the males had any guns?
Correct.
again, on the second interview where you testified, you took the opportunity to tell the truth. Do you remember telling the detective, it's quoted verbatim, that you genuinely could not say who the males were?
I recall.
And also in that same second truthful interview, do you remember a second time where once asked by, I believe his specific name was Nat, he asked if you knew the names of the males, and do you recall you stating that you did not know their names or Instagram?
Correct.
Do you also recall, this is at the end of that interview, that second truthful interview, do you recall telling the detective that you were at a teammate Sandy's house prior to the party and stated the incident was planned after leaving her house?
I don't recall that.
Again, focusing on the truthful interview, the second part. Do you recall in that interview telling the detective that you had not had a conversation with the males before that day nor after?
What was the question?
Do you recall telling the detective that you had not had a conversation with neither of the males before that day nor after that day of the incident?
I don't remember saying that.
Did you have any contact with any of those males before that day or after that incident day?
After what incident day?
The incident that has allegedly happened on 1040 Wiley Street. Did you have any contact with those males before that day or after that day? Any conversations, I would say, actually.
No.
Okay. You're currently incarcerated right now, correct?
Correct.
How long have you been incarcerated?
11 months.
Now, were you incarcerated from the start with these new charges, or were you ever granted a bond?
I was granted bond.
Okay. Do you remember your bond hearing?
I do.
And do you remember stating and telling the court that you were granted immunity from prosecution on this case regarding 1040 Wiley Street? And that was the reason why you actually got that bond?
During the bond hearing? I don't. That's not correct.
Yes. Yes, cool, Dad. That's exactly what I'm waiting for, is a question that stupid. It could still happen.
I would just like to, I guess, possibly refresh her memory, or
If there's something you think if she looked at would help her, this is in response to the question you just asked about
Yes,
discussing
about-
immunity at the bond hearing?
yes.
Okay, there's something you could hand to the deputy. He can get that to Ms. Riley. Just indicate to the deputy what part of that document you'd like Ms. Riley to read.
Well, dummy.
And share it with, deputy, if you'll share it with Mr. Abate on your way up there. No, you're good, Mr. Pritchett, but which part, it looks like 2 pages, which part in particular?
I'd like to refresh my memory. That's brilliant.
So not your witness?
He can ask.
Right, I mean, he could hand her a piece of paper that says hello on it, and that may refresh her recollection. So, if Deborah, you could indicate the area that Mr. Pritchett indicated as the area of interest for Ms. Riley to read. Oh, it's circled. All right, read the circled area. You just read that to yourself, Ms. Riley, and then when you're done reading, look back up at the person asking you questions, please.
I can't remember. But that'll probably be his big aha moment. Isn't it true that I was wearing the purge mask and not the monkey mask?
Okay, so what was the question?
Yeah.
Was there anything spoken about immunity in your bond hearing?
So your question before was, did Ms. Riley say something about immunity? You're welcome to change your question, but that's not what you asked before.
Well, my question specifically before, I was just trying to, help you out, give you a better understanding. My question specifically before was pertaining to the statement on that certified document, which is a motion.
So don't talk about what the document is. That's not in evidence, but it's something that we've let Ms. Riley look at because you were looking at it.
It says that.
Don't talk about what that says either. Do you want Ms. Riley to answer your first question, which is, did Ms. Riley say things about immunity at her bond hearing? Or your second question, which is, were things said about immunity at your bond hearing? Two different things. I just want to know which one it is.
Can we get an answer to both?
Sure. Which one do you want to start with?
The first one.
All right. So ask that again.
Miss Riley, again, did you ever claim in that bond hearing to anybody, the court or public official, that you were granted immunity from the prosecution from this case?
So are you referring to in 2019 or this is 2023?
Well, you were granted bond in what year were you granted bond?
I was granted bond twice, once in 2019 and this is from 2023.
Okay, yes. So that's referring to 2023, but it's stating, well, no.
So don't go to what it states, but I'm now a little confused. So whatever you've been looking at relates to things that may or may not have happened at your more recent bond hearing as a result of the arrest you told the jury about, where you were in a car and drugs.
Correct.
Not this case, a different case.
Yes.
Okay, so are you asking about that second bond hearing for the new set of charges? Or are you asking about the original bond hearing where we know she got bond, she talked about it, she was on house arrest, et cetera?
For the new charges.
Okay.
Because the understanding that I'm having is that at that bond.
Okay, we don't need to share your understanding with anyone. So I'm gonna intercede here. At the bond hearing you had last year concerning your new charges, did you say anything to the court about, that wasn't me, about you and immunity?
Yeah, there was some miscommunication between, I had a public defender at that time, and I had discussed some things with him, but he said immunity. It was just a miscommunication.
So your lawyer at the time, who's not the lawyer here in court, but was
Correct.
temporarily your lawyer for purposes of that bond hearing, made some representation to a judge, not me, about you and immunity.
Correct.
Okay.
So you told your public defender at the time that you had immunity.
No, there was miscommunication between us.
So we gotta be careful. I'm gonna let you follow this up, but what a client says to her lawyer is privileged. And I'm not finding right now that Ms. Riley has waived any privilege. So I'm just cautioning you. I may stop one of your questions if it's, hey, tell me what you were talking to your lawyer about. That's not a space that we get to explore. Okay?
Would you mind explaining the miscommunication, or would you rather just not speak on that communication?
Hold on. Okay, tell me the relevance. Assume for a moment that the lawyer who temporarily represented Ms. Riley said to the magistrate judge who was hearing this bond hearing last year, assume that lawyer said, oh, Ms. Riley has immunity. What's the relevance to her testimony and this trial?
Because she stated that she did not have immunity, or she wasn't promised anything. And so I was just trying to clarify, if at one point, did she have immunity or believe she had immunity?
Okay, but ask that then. Ask Ms. Riley her understanding of when she had immunity for what. That's already been explored, and you're welcome to explore it as well. I just need you to stay away from what she and her lawyer at that time may have been discussing.
Were you ever promised immunity from prosecution on this case?
I'm a little bit confused here because this is showing immunity, but this saying I'm falsely claiming immunity.
So really less about the document that that the person asking you questions just shared with you. And we've waded into an area that in some ways isn't fair you have to talk about because you're not a lawyer. But why don't you share with the jury what your understanding the state has promised you, if anything, about whether you'd be prosecuted for what you allegedly did, and whether you could be prosecuted for what you say in court under oath. Two different things.
So to my understanding, I am allowed to testify without it being used against me. That's all that I'm aware of. As far as everything else, charges and stuff, I still face the same consequence.
Okay. How long have you known Young Band?
Well, I knew him for about a year in before 2019.
And how did you meet him?
Through Instagram.
Okay. How would you describe you and his relationship?
Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, just friends, or friends with benefits?
Friends with benefits.
I was thinking it.
So you've previously, in your interactions with Young Bands, had sexual encounters with him?
Yes.
That's what it means. You already established that. Let it go.
Has he ever promised you or gifted you anything after these sexual encounters?
No.
Ma'am, are you a whore?
Yes. Let's get specific about the sexual encounters. That's the understanding I'm having.
How did you find out the people at the party that were said to be injured? How did you find out that these injuries occurred? Did you see them?
No, I didn't see them. The police showed me a photo of one of the men and told me what happened to him.
Did you see any of the males enter the house?
No.
You stayed in, I believe it was the second part, yes, the second part of your interview with Detective. You stated that when you arrived, you saw about 3 or 4 people walking on that same or near street. Is that, do you recall that?
I do.
Okay. You stated earlier that you believed you believe the defendant, or no, you believed the person you know as Rick to be part of a gang.
Correct.
What evidence do you have to prove that you know Rick is a part of YSL?
Just Instagram photos and gang signs, stuff like that.
Can you describe the Instagram photos you're talking about?
You showed me his membership card.
There's one of a green slime flag as well as the slime gang sign thrown up, as well as emojis representing slime that says slime love all the time, which is slat, which is a slime lingo thing. So all that.
That was pretty Pacific, my friend. Sounds like she knew. But keep asking questions.
At this moment, I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Abate, do you have any redirect for Ms. Riley?
Can I get that document back?
Yes, thank you. We'll get, Deputy, if you'll grab the unstapled document and get that to Mr. Pritchett. Thank you.
Very few couple of questions, okay?
Okay.
Can you tell the jurors, how did you meet, the person you knew as, Rick Rare?
I met him at a small gathering about a year before the robbery incident.
And, is Rick Rare the person that was just, in front of you asking questions?
Yes.
Okay. And, did you meet him through, your relationship with, Young Man's?
Correct.
Okay. And, can you tell the jurors what was the common link, or was Young Man's how you met, the person you know, Dave Slash?
Correct.
Okay. And, is the person that you have identified as Baby Slat, is that the person sitting over there that you identified as Tyrone Robinson?
Yes.
Okay. And are those two males that were in your Mercedes in the backseat on November 8th of 2019 when you drove to the Wiley Street party house?
Yes.
And when you told Detective Maldonado on November 16th that you didn't know the males in the car, was that a lie?
Yes.
And is that because, like you said, you were trying to minimize your role in what happened that night?
Yes.
And Mr. Howe is going to put State's Exhibit 23 back on the screen, and I just want to direct your attention just to 2 seconds. You see your message where it says me, and you ask Rick and Baby Slap where the money is. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And who are you sending that to?
Lindsay.
If you read to the jurors, it says, where it says delivered, what date was that delivered to, or delivered on?
November 10th, 2019.
So your knowledge of the names Baby Slat and is or was your knowledge, which you can see on the screen before you, of the nicknames Rick and Baby Slat before you were interviewed by Detective Maldonado on November 16th of 2019.
Correct.
Okay. And defense counsel asked you a few questions about the phones and the wallets and the injuries inside the apartment, do you remember, or the home. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember she asked you, isn't it true you didn't see anybody injured, right?
Yes.
And is that because you weren't in the apartment?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Was that because you weren't in the apartment?
I don't think the tense matters, but it's not suggesting the answer. It's not saying, isn't this so? So overruled.
Was that, whatever it may be, because you were not in the home when the armed robbery went down?
Correct.
Did you actually physically see with your own eyes when you were driving your car, or when everybody got back in your car, both defendants throwing out phones and wallets from your windows?
Yes.
And I just want to explore real quickly. As it relates to immunity, yeah, you were arrested in this case, right?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, were you indicted?
Yes.
And were you indicted with armed robbery, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, things that we talked about and heard about in the indictment today?
Yes, correct.
And as you sit here today, are you still charged with every one of those crimes?
Correct.
And is anyone, whether it be myself, Mr. Hiles, Ms. Green, Detective Maldonado, anyone told you that if you testify today, those charges will be reduced, dismissed, anything will happen to them?
No.
And, but are you testifying and telling what you told the jury is the truth because you hope that that'll benefit you in the long run?
Yes.
But as you sit there today, you have no idea if that is the case.
Correct.
I don't have any further questions now.
Ms. Mignot, any recross of Ms. Riley?
Ms. Riley, counsel just asked you about Tyrone Robinson being known as Baby Slat. It's after you were rearrested that you on November 16, 2019 is when you started saying, and the investigator specifically, Maldonado, showed you a picture. You said, yes, Slat.
Yes.
And prior to the detective giving you information about Slat, you didn't say anything about Slat, correct?
Correct.
You were not, counsel asked you if you were not in the home when the robbery went down. You remember that question?
Yes.
You also didn't see when anybody went into the home to rob it, correct?
Correct.
And then he asked you about immunity. Immunity is regarding your testimony today, correct?
Okay, yes.
And you can say anything you want today, and it's not going to be prosecuted as it pertains to pointing at Mr. Robinson, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Pritchett, the accused, do you have any recross? It would be based on just the exchange we had with Mr. Abate and then Ms. Mignot, not other stuff.
You said you testified that you stole drugs from 1040 Water that time, correct?
Correct.
Beyond the scope at this point.
What did you see? What did the males have that you thought were obviously took from that apartment? Did you see anything? Because you stated in your interview.
Come on, scope objection. We'll do this all day otherwise.
Well, when we returned to the house at the Mayfair, the drugs were dumped onto the bed from the black backpack that was used to steal them.
You are familiar with the colors of YSL, correct?
Could you repeat the question?
You are familiar with the colors of YSL, correct?
Yes.
I have a picture I want to show.
Okay, what I'll ask you to do is hand it to the deputy so he can show it to Ms. Mignot and Mr. Abate. And then, if they don't have an objection to that, excuse me, we'll send it on up to Ms. Riley.
Oh God, he's gonna do this. Object to scope. You don't get a next new round of cross examination about anything. You can only cross about what the redirect was on.
I think you can show it to her. I'm not quite sure that your question won't get an objection, but now everyone's seen it. I'm gonna call this for right now, put a name on it. So it's gonna be defendant Pritchett #1. If it gets admitted, it'll be there. You may not even want to admit it. Yeah, because why don't you state what your question is about that picture? Don't answer it yet, Ms. Riley, because there may be an objection. What's your question about the picture that you have just asked to be presented to Ms. Riley.
The picture of those shoes and the official description of them says on that.
So don't testify about what's on there. We already know it's a picture of a shoe. What's your question about the picture of the shoe for Ms. Riley?
Beyond the scope.
Same color of which you know to be YSL.
All right. Any objection to that question?
Beyond the scope. Yes.
I guess my only objection would be she's testifying about something that's not been admitted into evidence. So I mean, he wants to say what the color is the
It's
color
been
yellow,
admitted into
color
evidence.
YSL.
Beyond the scope.
I think that would be fine, but the actual specific question about the shoe.
So, Mr. Pritchett, there is a photograph of shoes in evidence. I think it's state 16. Do you want us to put that up on the screen and ask, because your picture's not in evidence? And so her answer actually won't be relevant. She could say, yep, that matches, or it doesn't, but the jurors aren't going to have that photo with them. There is a photo in evidence.
That photo was testified by Buckingham that.
He testified whatever he testified to. Would you like to ask this witness, Ms. Riley, about the shoes that are in that photo? The photo states 16, whatever number it is. Because I'm happy to require the state to put it up on the screen. Don't put it up yet.
Jesus.
There it is. Would you like to ask her about those shoes? Because this isn't in evidence. If you can figure out how to get it into evidence, then you can ask her questions about it.
My second question is the color yellow that those shoes are associated with YSL?
Yes.
What other colors are associated with YSL?
Lime green.
And how is this association, how are they associated with YSL? Why are these colors associated with YSL? Being that you said you were a YSL member.
I don't think I implied I'm a YSL member.
I believe you said YSL associate. And you know a lot of YSL members.
So what's the question?
The question is, according to your knowledge of this game, how and why is the color yellow or green or whatever else colors you know associated with YSL? Why are they associated? What are the meanings behind it?
I don't know.
She doesn't know. She's just in the YSL auxiliary.
You
They
stated
didn't
yellow,
cover
you
that yet.
stated lime green. What other colors are associated?
I don't know.
Why do you know lime green is associated with YSL?
Because that's the primary color that you see over the YSL logo.
How do you know yellow is associated with YSL?
Yes,
Well,
relevant.
this certain particular color of yellow is slime green, yellowish. So that would be a color I see frequently.
Okay. All right. Jurors, do you have any questions for Ms. Riley? And if you do, write them down and get them to the deputy, please.
I mean, none of that mattered. It didn't go anywhere. It was a complete waste of time. But
We'll get it
could've been
back.
Stopped.
I will take those, and if you would get what Mr. Pritchett shared, we need to return that to him, those two pieces of paper. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will break for lunch when we're done with Ms. Riley's examination. I haven't forgotten about lunch, but I would like to finish that so we have a natural break point. You're going to get a little break right now because I need to share your proposed questions with all the participants. Once we've worked through those, we'll bring you back out here, do that final phase. I'll ask the questions that were proper. The lawyers, everyone will get a chance to follow up if they've got anything, and then it's lunch. I promise there'll be lunch. Go have a snack. Don't talk about the case.
All right, we're adjourned.
Oh. Thank you.
Right here, please. I'm gonna give these to you as you get them, and then you and Ms. Mignot and Mr. Pritchett can review them.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Ms. Mignot, come on around and let's huddle up right over there.
You know what my guess for the question is? I mean, it goes without saying.
Ma'am, are you a whore?
It never gets old.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, last one. Thanks.
Yes, we're in the prosecution case in chief right now. I don't know how many more witnesses they have. Did somebody notice? Did they say? The other lacrosse player is going to show up. I know that much. Yeah. I'll have her on to do a little politicking in near her election, but other than that, I want to keep her out of trouble. I'm protecting her. She doesn't need to be associated with the likes of me right now. Let's be honest. It's not going to help. She'll win that election, and she should. She's gonna make.
I need one of you to get them back.
Oh.
Thanks.
I apologize.
It's okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Mr. Bate, I didn't see any issues with any of these. Any objection to any of these questions? Ms. Mignot.
No objection, John.
All good with
And
me.
sir.
I have one brief question before the.
Yeah.
These are going into the record, correct?
Yes, I think I said it before, but let's be clear. Every single submission from the jurors, whether asked or not, will be a court exhibit. So the whole, that's why I number them. And so I put those on. And that way, if there's an appeal, someone can say, well, the judge didn't ask number 29. But everything they hand in goes into the stack that I keep right here, whether asked or not. We're batting not quite 1,000, but much of what they've submitted, I've asked, but there are a few that haven't, but they will be made part of the record.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, let's bring the jurors in,
You haven't
please.
checked in with the
And I'm sorry,
accused.
Judge, I think I interrupted you before you finished.
Oh, yeah, okay. Did you have any objection to any of these questions? Nope, thank you, you did.
Mr. Sharps, Mr. Sharps.
I never want to hear it again. I never want to hear it again. Now, if anybody thinks this is okay, I am in the wrong.
Are you a whore? You're not a whore? Not a whore? You're not a whore?
I never want to hear it again.
You're not a whore? Not a whore? You're not a whore?
I never want to hear it again.
It gets worse.
Not quite done. Was it Chris Riggs? Was it Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Did he know that you and Miss Callish, or at least you, did he know that you were someone who associated with YSL members before he extended that invitation?
No.
Prior to November 8th, 2019, the night of the Wiley Street party, how many times had you been in the same space with the person you knew to be Rick Rare?
Just one other time.
Okay. I think you testified to that. That was a get together like a year before or something.
Yes.
And how about the person you understood to be Baby Slat before the night of the party? How many times had you been in the same space with him?
I had never been with him prior.
Did you have a sense of whether Ms. Callish had ever been in the same room with the person you knew as Rick Rare prior to the night of the party?
Yes, one other time.
Same time as you?
Yes.
So you two were together, you and Ms. Callish, when you first met Rick Rare?
Yes.
Same question about the person you understood to be Baby Slat. Did you have any understanding as to whether Ms. Callish had met Baby Slat before the night of the Wiley Street party?
No.
As in you don't have an understanding, or you don't believe she had met him?
I don't believe she had met him.
Okay. Did you and Ms. Callish and Rick Rare and Baby Slat, maybe Young Bands, at Young Bands' place that night before you went to the party, talk about what would happen with what you lifted, what you stole?
No.
No plan about you get 1/3 share, he gets a 1/3 share?
No.
Can you share with the jury the best you remember about what Baby Slat and Rick Rare were wearing the night of the robbery?
I don't recall what they were wearing.
They did have clothes on.
They did have clothes on.
Okay. And you mentioned masks. Can you describe what you remember about the masks?
I believe one of them was like an animal looking mask, and then the other one I can't recall what it was.
Okay. Other than drugs, and by that I mean the candy, the wax, all that kind of stuff, wallets and phones, was there anything else you remember that was taken from the Wiley Street address, either because you took it or when that backpack got emptied, that's what came out, or it's what was thrown out of your car?
I believe what was not mentioned was just a computer.
Computer like a big desktop or a laptop?
A laptop.
And where did you see that?
I think that they threw it outside the car when we got to the Mayfair.
So it was not in the black backpack?
It may have been, but I didn't see it in the backpack. I just saw it when it was out, being thrown out of the car.
I didn't ask that well. It wasn't what was dumped out onto the couch or bed or whatever inside the Mayfair?
Correct.
When you were inside 1040 Wiley, did you speak with anyone other than Mr. Hooper?
Yes, I spoke to Chris Riggs.
He was the guy who was upstairs when you went upstairs.
Correct.
Tell the jurors when in the sequence of events inside 1040 Wiley you got the white jacket, because we saw you go in, no white jacket, come out, yes, white jacket. When did you get the white jacket?
Well, I had stole the wax and I had put it in my shirt. So when I came downstairs and Lindsay was there, I had asked her to give me the jacket, and then I put it on and then walked straight out.
Okay. You didn't linger with the jacket on?
Correct.
when you left the house wearing the white jacket, what was the plan as you understood it to be for Lindsay to be able to get out of the house and leave with you?
Well, I was assuming that she would just leave with me at the same time, but she ended up going to the bathroom and came out at a later time.
Okay, I think you've described later you saw her on the street, she got in your car,
Yes, correct.
everyone left. Okay. Are you aware from the times that you've seen the person you were calling Rick Rare and the person you were calling Baby Slat of any tattoos or marks on their bodies?
Not that I know of.
When you were speaking with Investigator Maldonado, you've talked about at first, not so truthful, later, maybe more truthful. Did you bring up to him the name Rick Rare, or did he bring that up to you?
I don't recall, actually.
Same question about Baby Slat. Did you volunteer the name Baby Slat, or did he say, do you know someone named Baby Slat, or words to that effect?
He said it to me first, for Baby Slat.
Okay. During the course of your answers to some of the questions today, you've said Tyrone Robinson and Max Pritchett. So given names rather than monikers. Did you know that the name Tyrone Robinson is in some way supposedly connected with Baby Slat? Or is that something that Investigator Maldonado or a prosecutor told you?
The investigator told me his
Okay.
real name.
Same thing about Rick Rare. Did you know that Rick Rare is allegedly associated with the name Max Pritchett? Or is that something Maldonado or one of his colleagues told you?
Officer Maldonado told me that.
Mr. Abate, do you have any questions for Ms. Riley based on that exchange?
Just one. Do you remember prior to arriving at the Mayfair, young bands DMing you that when you get there, Max will meet you in the lobby?
I don't recall that.
Okay, but if it's in your phone extraction, it would be something that you would have
Yeah,
been
I
able
would
to.
object. I think that is outside of the questions that the jurors asked.
Nope, I disagree. You can keep going.
That's my last question. If it's found in your phone extraction, or excuse me, in your Instagram records, you wouldn't have any ability to fabricate or.
Objection, Your Honor, that is leading.
Okay, so finish the question, but don't suggest the answer in the question. Don't answer the question until he finishes it so that Ms. Mignot can reevaluate it.
If it's in your Instagram records, would you have any ability up until today to fabricate or add things into those records that were sent directly from Instagram?
Objection again, please.
Okay, overruled.
No.
Is that further questions?
Ms. Mignot, do you have any questions for Ms. Riley based on either what Mr. Abate just covered or what I covered with Ms. Riley?
No, Your Honor, we do now. Thank you.
All right, and same question for you, sir, the accused. Any follow-up for Ms. Riley?
No.
Okay, Ms. Riley, your testimony is complete. I'm going to ask you to stay right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch break. It is somewhere around 12:55. It'd be great if we could do a 50-minute, 50-minute lunch, but I don't mean to compromise or truncate your needed break. You just have been getting some bonus breaks while we go through your good questions. But that way we'll get more done today. So if we were to reconvene at 1:40, would that be too soon for anyone? No? Let's do it 1:40. I'll make sure everyone here is back before then, and we'll have the next witness ready to go. Logistical question, sir.
You had said yesterday that this morning you would get a sense for how long they're on trial. But
I do. You want it? I'll probably see you guys on Monday, but you committed to Monday. I will not see you on Saturday unless you're going to the Renaissance Festival where my kids are making me take them. I won't see you on Sunday I won't be in circulation at all, but I've told the lawyers that that could be problematic because I qualified you all through Monday, but we all want to see this through, and I'll be giving you updates anytime you ask, and I may even volunteer them. But since it wasn't a happy update, I figured I'd wait till someone asked, and you asked. So I suspect that we will be spending some time together on Monday. The lawyers are working hard, as you know. This is important stuff, and these examinations are appropriately thorough. So I don't want to eat into any more of your lunchtime. 1:40 back here. We'll keep on trucking. Don't talk about the case. No outside research. Thank you so much.
Renaissance Fair explains a lot. It really explains a lot. Where are we at here? All right, so there you have it. It looks like we're going to Monday. I am not doing this afternoon. I can't. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe. I don't know. I have to look. But you guys are on your own for the afternoon. I'd hand it off to somebody, but I don't know. I don't know who to hand it off to. Is somebody else streaming this thing? I think I'm the lone wolf on this trial. I got suckered into this by you people. Oh yeah, we're gonna have the airing of the grievances right now. I know it's not Festivus time, but we're gonna have the airing of the grievances right now. This afternoon's no go. I got a conflict. But maybe I'll catch that up. If it's fantastic, I might do a shortened version of that when I get a chance. And then if tomorrow's going well, maybe I can't tell you yet, but maybe I'll be able to do it. Yay! You That was good times, though. That was good times. You know what? The soft sit's doing better than I thought, and by that I mean he's not doing well at all. But for instance, during cross and stuff, he's not spouting Daryl Brooks, soft sit stuff. He's trying. What did he say? Oh, I can't remember now. That's the understanding I'm having. What he's doing is merely dumb. He has no command of the English language. Okay, fine. But I can see what his thought process is while he's doing this. He's trying to defend himself outside of soft sit principles. I'll give him that. He doesn't know what he's doing, but I will give him that. He's almost as good as the other defense attorney. Okay, that's not quite fair. That's not quite fair to the other defense attorney. She's doing okay. She's just kind of off-putting. Technically, she's doing okay. She doesn't have my estimation of her is that she does not have, I don't know, high emotional intelligence, for lack of a better term. She doesn't know how to relate to people very well. But she's doing the nuts and bolts of what a defense attorney would do there. And she's not always horrible, but she often is. Sometimes she does okay. She made some points. She stumbled into really getting her to make an admission about immunity. I don't think that's going to carry the day for him or anything, but I think that needed to be done, and that was a good moment for her, if I'm being honest. So there you have it. There you have it. That was pretty interesting today. I'm not happy. I actually would like to do the afternoon, but I can't. I'll catch up with it. I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll catch up with it, and then maybe I can do it tomorrow. But the problem is, if it goes tomorrow, I can't do this. I can't do it this afternoon tonight. And if the trial goes tomorrow, then I can do the new part, not the old part. All right, whatever. None of that matters. None of that matters. Thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate it. We'll get to the end of this thing one way or the other. I'll see y'all soon.